Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 1 of our story. If you like this What If story and want to see part 2, let me know in the comments below. Before we start, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. Also, check the description for more great content and my playlist. This story was posted by 𝐒𝐮𝐬 on Wattpad. Now let's start. In this world, 80% of the population had developed abilities known as quirks, mana, sacred gears, chakra, and more, while the remaining 20% were born without any of these powers, rendering them powerless. This minority was often looked down upon, neglected, and mistreated, as survival of the fittest ruled the land. Among the populace, some wielded their powers for good, earning titles such as heroes and hunters, while others embraced darkness, becoming known as villains and monsters. To nurture the next generation of protectors, a school named Union Academy was established, dedicated to training young individuals to become great heroes. Heroes were ranked from E to S, with a national rank representing the strongest heroes in the country, like All Might and Star and Stripes. The story begins long before the main characters 𝐼𝐼𝐻, in an era marked by war and conflict, devoid of romance. Nations clashed in their quest for dems, each seeking absolute power over the others. The three factions of the supernatural were embroiled in chaos, a time referred to as the pre-generation, or generation in this tumultuous PRD. One clan rose above all others on the battlefield, feared and respected by many. This clan was known as the midoryia clan. Led by Hisashi Midoriya, a man who stood unrivaled, he fought against countless opponents and emerged victorious every time. He was a one-man army, unmatched even by the legendary heavenly dragons. Great Red and Ophis themselves trembled at his strength. Remarkably, Hisashi achieved this without any quirks, mana, or sacred gears. He relied solely on his clan's abilities, deadly techniques, and martial arts. Hisashi was known as the pinnacle of physical force and the strongest man in the world, but he was most famously referred to as Kuro Oni, or the Black Demon. Wherever he went, fear followed. Even the mightiest gods and heroes quaked at the sound of his name. Hisashi's power was so immense that he single-handedly took control of America out of sheer boredom, becoming a formidable force. Alongside his clan, he brought an end to the war, instilling fear throughout the world. The Midoriya clan demonstrated absolute power and dems, making it clear that anyone who dared to challenge them would face dire consequences. There was a system in place that allowed individuals to check another's status by simply stating status. However, whenever someone attempted to check Hisashi's or any member of the Midoriya clan's status, an error would occur, as their power was beyond the system's capacity. Desiring to continue his legacy, Hisashi married 3 women he loved and had children with them. However, none of his offspring inherited all the clan's abilities, each child received only 1 or 2. Despite this, Hisashi cherished his children deeply, yearning for an heir who could inherit all 3 clan abilities: UI Reverse Eyes, Removal, and Devil/Demon Back. The scene opens with Hisashi seated in his office, contemplating his lineage. He pondered the abilities of his children, reflecting on their potential. He considered Aki, who had inherited the reverse eyes and his removal ability but could only utilize it at 50% of its capacity. Hisashi believed Aki could surpass this limit, yet he recognized that his son's body could only handle so much. Hisashi then thought of Alice, born with a light manipulation quirk and a prodigy in magic, but she had not inherited any abilities beyond the reverse eyes. Lastly, he reflected on Kai, who possessed elemental manipulation and the devil back ability. A dark and sinister aura enveloped Hisashi as he rested his hand on his face. Anyone sensitive to his presence would feel an overwhelming dread, for he embodied the very essence of power itself. Hisashi folded his hands as shadows obscured his face, contemplating the future of his clan. He needed an heir, a child who would inherit all the clan's abilities and utilize them to their fullest potential. This heir would reach his level of power and strength, dominating the world and demonstrating the true meaning of power. Rising from his seat, he exited his office and stepped outside, where he spotted his first wife, Mika. A smile crossed his face as he approached her, sharing a tender kiss. He greeted her warmly, asking how she was doing. Mika replied that she was fine, enjoying the cool breeze of the blizzard, and inquired if he was heading out. Hisashi confirmed that he was, promising to see her later. As he walked to clear his thoughts, he heard commotion coming from an alleyway. Curiosity piqued, he moved closer to investigate. There, he saw 3 men holding an appealing young woman who was desperately trying to escape their grasp. The woman pleaded for release, her voice trembling with fear. One of the men struck her, causing her to fall, while the others laughed menacingly, reveling in her distress. The rain began to pour heavily, amplifying the tension as the men continued to taunt her. Just as they were about to advance, the atmosphere shifted. Hisashi's presence loomed, radiating a dangerous aura that made the men pause. He confronted them, asserting that it was disrespectful to touch someone without their consent. The men, taken aback, demanded to know who he was. Hisashi responded with a chilling calmness, revealing his identity as the head of the Midoryia clan, a name that struck fear into their hearts. Their faces paled as they realized the gravity of the situation. Hisashi then posed a question that sent shivers down their spines, asking how they would prefer to meet their end. The woman, witnessing Hisashi's power, was astonished, having heard stories of him from her mother. Before the men could react, Hisashi moved with blinding speed, swiftly incapacitating them. He turned his attention to the woman, inquiring about her name. She introduced herself as Inko Shimura, expressing her gratitude for his timely intervention, admitting that she feared for her life. Hisashi felt a blush creep onto his cheeks, finding Inko quite attractive. He mentioned knowing her mother, Nana Shimura, which surprised her. He offered to escort her home, concerned for her safety in the dark. As they walked, Hisashi reflected on his past encounters with Nana, recalling their battles and her strength. Inko appreciated his company, and they began to bond, sharing stories and laughter. Their connection deepened over time, leading to love and eventually marriage. A few years later, Inko was expecting their first child, surrounded by Mika and the other women as she prepared for the WhatIf, enduring the challenges of bringing new life into the world. It was pouring rain outside, the clouds a deep purple, and the lightning flashed ominously. Inko was in distress, her cries echoing through the room. Mika urged her to breathe deeply, encouraging her to keep pushing. Hana joined in, reminding Inko that she could do this. As Inko followed Hana's advice, Hisashi waited outside, eager for the arrival of their new child. The sounds of Inko's struggle filled the air, her pain palpable. Inko shouted in frustration, expressing her anger towards Hisashi in a moment of intense emotion. Hisashi remained silent, reflecting on the similar words spoken by other mothers during their own childbirth experiences. He pondered the unpredictable nature of mood swings during LBR, resigning himself to the fact that he would never fully understand it. Finally, Inko delivered the baby, and Hisashi rushed inside upon hearing the cries. He found Inko cradling a newborn with closed eyes, a wave of joy washing over him. Hisashi gazed at the baby, his heart swelling with pride, and Inko confirmed that it was indeed their son. As Hisashi took the child into his arms, the baby opened his eyes, and a shift in the atmosphere signaled the significance of this moment. Hisashi's eyes widened in astonishment as he recognized the unique trait in his son's eyes. He cautiously extended his hand, feeling a sharp sensation as the baby bit him, revealing a tiny tooth. Hisashi's grin widened, excitement bubbling within him. While most newborns cried, their son remained calm, gazing at Hisashi with an intensity that was unusual for a baby. Hisashi felt a thrill of anticipation for the future. Inko then asked what they should name their child. Hisashi looked at their son, noticing a dark purple aura surrounding him, and declared that he would be named Izuku Midoryia, his pride and joy. He felt a surge of confidence, believing that Izuku would grow to be a force to be reckoned with. Hisashi envisioned a future where Izuku would surpass him, shaking the world with his strength and potential. He was certain that with the right training, Izuku could become an unstoppable force. The balance of the world shifted with Izuku's 𝐒𝐻, a sign of the power that had entered the world. A new heir to the Midoryia clan had arrived, destined to bring about significant change. 10 years later, Izuku was no ordinary boy. At just 10 years old, he exuded a dangerous aura, his gaze sharp and intelligent. He was a prodigy, displaying a maturity and seriousness beyond his years. Hisashi had trained him diligently, helping him master the abilities of their clan. Izuku could harness a significant portion of his powers, though he had yet to fully master them. He excelled in every aspect, from sports to academics, consistently ranking at the top. However, his prowess had drawn attention. With a bounty of over 1 billion yen on his head, numerous villains sought to eliminate him, sending high-ranking assassins to do the job, all of whom had failed spectacularly. Izuku maintained a good relationship with his siblings, though they didn't communicate often. The person he was closest to was Kai. They were best friends, and Kai was the only one who truly understood Izuku and his way of thinking. The scene begins with Izuku Midoriya walking home after enjoying ice cream from his favorite shop. He thought about how delightful the ice cream had been and considered asking his mother to sponsor the shop, imagining how wonderful it would be to have an unlimited supply of ice cream at home. Izuku reflected on the harsh realities of being quirkless, noting how society often treated those without abilities as worthless. He felt the weight of the corrupt system that surrounded him. Despite being quirkless himself, he knew that people hesitated to challenge him because of his father's reputation. Determined to change society, Izuku vowed to eliminate the corruption that plagued the world, ensuring that everyone would be treated fairly and equally. Meanwhile, in a distant building, two high-ranking assassins prepared their weapons, ready to take aim at Izuku. Their names were Ghost and Blade. Ghost remarked on Izuku being the youngest son of Hisashi Midoriya, while Blade noted the staggering sum they had been paid to ensure his demise. They discussed how the birth of this boy had shifted the balance of power in the world, making their lives as villains much more complicated. As they readied their weapons, Izuku suddenly turned his gaze toward them, his eyes glowing with a fierce purple light. The assassins were struck with an overwhelming sense of dread, collapsing to their knees as they coughed, their bodies trembling in fear. They could hardly comprehend the bloodlust emanating from Izuku, which sent chills down their spines. Ghost thought about how a child could possess such an aura of intimidation, while Blade felt an instinctual warning that moving would lead to his demise. They both realized that looking into Izuku's eyes felt like staring into the face of death itself. As Izuku intensified his bloodlust, the assassins felt as if they were facing imminent destruction. With a commanding presence, Izuku warned them to stay away, making it clear that he would not be merciful if they crossed his path again. His tone conveyed a promise rather than a threat, leaving no doubt about his seriousness. As he walked away, the oppressive aura dissipated, and black crows flew past him. Izuku casually placed his hands in his pockets, exuding an air of confidence. He advised the assassins not to look at him again, asserting that they did not deserve to be in his presence. Once he left, the assassins remained on their knees, struggling to catch their breath, drenched in sweat. Ghost muttered that Izuku was no ordinary child, while Blade reflected on the fear they had experienced, realizing it was unlike anything they had felt before. Ghost concluded that Izuku seemed to embody death itself, and Blade expressed concern about how formidable he would become in the future. They both agreed that it was best to abandon their mission, sensing that continuing would likely lead to their own demise. The scene shifts back to Izuku, who arrived at the Midoriya clan mansion, a smile gracing his face as he entered. Inside, he found his mothers engaged in conversation. He greeted them warmly, calling them his appealing mothers. Bella responded with a smile, asking how his walk had been. Izuku replied that it had been good, though he had encountered some trouble with a few weaklings. Inko sighed, anticipating that it was more assassins, and Izuku confirmed that he had handled the situation. He then inquired about the whereabouts of his siblings, Alice, Kai, Aki, and his father. Hana mentioned that Kai was training outside with Aki, while Alice had gone out with her friends, and Izuku's father was in conversation with his grandfather. Izuku acknowledged this information, contemplating the situation. Mika then reminded him that his grandfather wanted to speak with him upon his return, urging him to go see him. Izuku agreed and made his way to his father's study, where he found his father and grandfather engaged in discussion. Izuku greeted them, and his grandfather, Shinji, welcomed him warmly, inquiring about his well-being. Shinji Midoriya, the former head of the clan and renowned as the strongest swordsman of his time, had taught Hisashi the art of the sword, contributing to his father's formidable strength. Izuku reflected on his grandfather's legacy, recognizing that while his father had surpassed him, Shinji still possessed great skill and had been training Izuku in swordsmanship. Izuku was determined to surpass both his father and grandfather. He informed his grandfather that he was doing well and had heard from his mother that Shinji wanted to discuss something important. Shinji confirmed this, expressing his longing to talk about Izuku's goals and dreams, along with a few questions. Izuku took a seat, and Hisashi smiled, affectionately patting his son's head. He noticed a bowl of ice cream nearby and began to enjoy it. Curious, Izuku asked if Shinji had inquired about his siblings' aspirations as well. Hisashi confirmed that Kai aimed to dominate the world while protecting those he loved, and he intended to support Izuku as his right-hand man. Izuku smiled at the thought of his brother's ambitions. Hisashi then shared that Aki wanted to be the strongest and lead their clan, though he had reservations about Aki taking on that responsibility. Izuku pondered Aki's goal and asked about Alice. Hisashi revealed that she aspired to be the strongest woman in their clan and to make everyone proud. Izuku chuckled, acknowledging her determination. Shinji then prompted Izuku to share his own dreams and goals. As Izuku considered this, a heavy aura surrounded him, exuding a strong presence that made both Hisashi and Shinji smirk with pride. Izuku declared that his goal was to become the king of the world. Shinji, intrigued, asked why he held such an ambition. Izuku explained that he wanted to change the corrupt society and believed he needed to become strong enough to challenge those in power, even the gods and heavenly dragons. He expressed his longing to surpass both his father and grandfather. Hisashi was impressed by Izuku's aspirations, while Shinji inquired about the changes he would implement as king. Izuku envisioned a world free of corruption and unfairness, where everyone would be treated equally, creating an appealing utopia and bringing peace to the world. Hisashi felt a thrill at Izuku's words, eager to see how far his son would go. Shinji posed a thought-provoking question about the value of a child born from war versus one born from peace. Izuku answered confidently that neither was more valuable, as each lacked the understanding of the other's experience. He elaborated that a child from peace would struggle to survive in war, while a child from war would find it difficult to resolve issues peacefully. This revelation left both Hisashi and Shinji in deep contemplation. Shinji admitted he had never considered it that way, recognizing Izuku's perspective mirrored Hisashi's own. He felt excitement at the thought of Izuku's potential as the prodigy of their clan. Izuku concluded that he had researched the struggles faced by those without quirks or support in a corrupt world, reflecting on his own fortunate upbringing in the strongest clan. He was determined to grow stronger, to the point where his strength would command respect and fear from others. Izuku reflected on the love and support of his family, feeling truly blessed to have them by his side. He understood that challenges would always arise to disrupt their peace, and he resolved to become stronger to face them head-on. With a determined grin, he activated his unique eyes, looking at his grandfather and father. He expressed a longing to rid the world of false heroes, villains, and corruption, a mission he intended to pursue even before claiming the title of king. He believed that he alone was destined for greatness and aimed to reach the pinnacle of absolute power, knowing that results were what truly mattered. Both Shinji and Hisashi felt a chill run down their spines as they beamed with pride at Izuku's words. Hisashi acknowledged his son's impressive rhetoric, while Shinji sensed the storm of change that Izuku would bring to the world. Izuku then announced his intention to check on his brothers, Aki and Kai, before heading to the training grounds. Meanwhile, Shinji and Hisashi exchanged thoughts on Izuku's potential. Shinji planned to take Izuku under his wing at the age of 15, while Hisashi agreed to train him for the next 5 years, eager to see how he would develop. The scene shifted to Izuku training with his brothers. In a 2-on-1 sparring match, he faced Aki, who was 18, while Kai, at 13, fought alongside him. Their sister Alice, aged 15, and their mother watched from the sidelines. As the match began, Aki marveled at the synchronized movements of his younger brothers. He launched a kick at Izuku, who skillfully blocked it and communicated with Kai, ready to unleash their combined strength. They charged at Aki with incredible speed, engaging in a fierce hand-to-hand combat exchange. Aki defended himself with his staff, but the brothers pressed on. In a swift moment, Aki landed a powerful kick on Kai, sending him crashing into a wall. Kai felt the impact and recognized the strength behind Aki's strikes. Aki then aimed his staff at Izuku, but Izuku dodged and countered with a swift punch, followed by a backflip kick that caught Aki off guard. Izuku felt a rush of adrenaline as he executed his technique, showcasing his impressive martial arts skills for his age. Shinji observed with pride, acknowledging Izuku as a true prodigy, while Hisashi noted his potential surpassing that of his siblings. Alice praised Izuku's agility and speed, while Mika remarked on his dedication to training. Inko, their mother, expressed pride in her son, knowing he inherited strength from his father. However, Aki, feeling overshadowed by the praise directed at Izuku, became frustrated. He charged at Izuku with newfound intensity, utilizing his unique abilities in a moment of anger. Inko sensed a shift in Aki's demeanor, feeling a dangerous intent emanating from him. Mika and Hana shared their concerns, urging to stop the match before it escalated. Izuku, realizing the seriousness of Aki's actions, prepared himself for the unexpected. Aki's aggression caught him off guard as he slammed Izuku to the ground. Despite the pain, Izuku quickly regained his composure and retaliated with a spinning kick, forcing Aki to stumble back. Even in this intense moment, Izuku was holding back, relying on his base form as he faced his brother. The training match had taken a turn, and the stakes were higher than ever. Izuku let out a fierce battle cry, charging forward with determination. Aki responded with a loud shout, clearly feeling the intensity of the fight. The onlookers fell silent, taken aback by the display of power. Hisashi observed the scene, feeling a mix of admiration and concern. Kai contemplated joining the fray but decided against it, recognizing that Izuku had the situation well in hand. Alice dismissed the idea of joining the fight, claiming it wouldn't benefit her. Kai expressed surprise that someone from the Midoriya family, like Alice, would shy away from combat. Bella chuckled, attributing Alice's demeanor to her own influence. Inko voiced her concern, suggesting that Hisashi should intervene as the fight escalated. Mika shared her worries for the boys involved. Hisashi reassured them, promising to step in if things became too serious. He noted how Izuku was adapting to Aki's attacks. Shinji acknowledged that Izuku was not just adapting but countering Aki's moves with impressive precision. He marveled at Izuku's limitless potential, feeling sympathy for any future opponents who would face him. Hisashi felt a swell of pride for his son, considering him a true masterpiece. As the fight continued, Aki threw a punch, which Izuku mirrored perfectly, landing a hit that surprised everyone. Shinji was left speechless by the display. Kai noted Izuku's perfect imitation of Aki's punch. Alice pondered just how strong Izuku truly was and how many abilities he possessed. Hisashi revealed that Izuku had the ability to perfectly copy others, laughing joyfully at his son's talent. Aki, feeling frustrated by the praise Izuku was receiving, charged at him. Izuku realized he couldn't dodge in his current state, feeling the limitations of his young body. Aki seized Izuku's head and slammed him into the ground, causing him to cough, and Izuku fell unconscious. The crowd gasped in shock. Inko shouted in alarm, demanding to know what Aki was doing. Hisashi echoed her concern, equally alarmed. Aki then threw Izuku against a wall, prompting Hisashi to step in, but he suddenly sensed an overwhelming pressure in the air. The atmosphere shifted, and the smoke cleared to reveal Izuku in a powerful stance, his aura radiating intensity. Hisashi and Shinji recognized the impending danger, realizing Izuku was about to unleash a tremendous attack. They both felt the weight of the situation, knowing that if Izuku's punch connected, it could be devastating. In a flash, Izuku appeared before Aki, who was taken aback by the overwhelming aura surrounding him. Hisashi quickly intervened, blocking the punch just in time, while Shinji knocked Izuku out, the force of the punch creating a shockwave that rippled through the area. Shinji marveled at Izuku's ability to harness such power at such a young age, questioning what kind of extraordinary child Inko had raised. Hisashi admitted that even he couldn't achieve such a feat as Inko cradled her unconscious son. Aki faced the consequences of his actions, receiving a stern reprimand from Mika for going too far. Hisashi confronted Aki, reminding him of the responsibility he held as an older brother and the importance of protecting his siblings rather than hurting them. Aki, filled with anger, nodded in acknowledgement. Hisashi, sensing the turmoil within Aki, warned him not to let his emotions control him. Aki left the training grounds, frustrated and seething. Mika decided to talk to him, hoping to help him process his feelings. Hisashi agreed, planning to speak with Aki later to guide him. As Mika approached her son, Hisashi looked at Izuku, who was peacefully asleep on Inko's lap, a smile spreading across his face. Hisashi smiled, expressing his belief that his son would achieve great things in the future. 5 years later, Izuku was now 15 years old. During this time, his father had trained him rigorously, allowing him to master his reverse IUI and removal techniques, as well as his devil and back abilities, reaching full proficiency. However, he had yet to unlock TUI and had not fully realized his potential or entered his prime. Izuku had learned and mastered all the martial arts and techniques his father had imparted to him. He was a prodigy, consistently winning trophies and awards, always at the top of his game. His achievements were a testament to the intense training his father had put him through, which often felt like facing near-death situations. He had grown close to Kai and Alice, who had begun to open up to him. However, Aki had changed drastically, becoming cold-hearted and developing a superiority complex that made him believe he was above everyone else. His jealousy towards Izuku grew as he struggled to accept that he could never surpass his brother in fighting, academics, sports, and more. Each defeat fueled his anger and resentment. Izuku had gained a reputation worldwide, earning titles such as Heavenly Demon, Embodiment of Death, Pinnacle, Devil, and Apex Predator. He was recognized as the strongest prodigy of his generation and regarded as a national treasure, feared by many. Despite his cold, serious, and ruthless demeanor, Izuku was also kind and caring. He always helped the weak and those in need, guided by the teachings of his mother, Inko, to do what was right. The only thing Izuku had yet to acquire was his cursed sword, which remained out of reach. The scene opens with Izuku sitting in his trophy room, a space created to accommodate the numerous trophies he had won. Izuku reflected on the past 5 years, acknowledging his achievements but feeling a lingering sense of inadequacy. He was about to turn 15 and would soon leave to train with his grandfather, who would help him improve further. He felt the need to grow stronger, aware that the world valued results above all else. He pondered who his father would choose as the next clan heir and considered that today marked the last day of his high school. He contemplated his future, realizing he could not always rely on his father. After training with his grandfather, he planned to embark on a journey to become stronger. Kai entered the room, searching for Izuku. He greeted Izuku, who sighed and inquired about Kai's purpose for coming. Kai informed him that their mother wanted him to join them for breakfast. Izuku agreed to come shortly. Kai then posed a question about when Izuku would get a girlfriend, noting that he was always alone despite his looks and charm. He mentioned that many girls had sent marriage proposals, which Izuku had declined. Izuku acknowledged the point but explained that none of the girls interested him, they simply weren't his type. As he stood up to put on his blazer, he looked at his brother and added a white jacket on top. Kai asked if Izuku even had a type. Izuku chuckled and described his ideal partner, someone who would walk the same path as him, strong enough to challenge him, and fearless enough to face the world as an enemy. He envisioned a girl who was determined, willing to do anything to achieve her goals, and possessed qualities like being an amazing cook, gentle, caring, and kind. That was the type of girl he desired. Kai thought about the rarity of such a girl, realizing that most who sought to marry his brother were simply infatuated. He found it amusing that Izuku had his own online fan club and hoped there might be someone who could open his brother's cold heart. Izuku assured Kai he would be down shortly and knew their mother had asked Kai about his preferences in a partner. Kai, feeling flustered, quickly left the room, and Izuku took a moment to himself, stepping to the window to light a cigarette. Izuku pondered the possibility of finding a girl with the qualities he desired. Until then, he decided to see where life would take him. At 15, Izuku had a youthful appearance. He left his room and made his way downstairs, where he found his family gathered for breakfast, except for Aki. He greeted everyone with a cheerful morning, and they responded in kind. Taking a seat, he turned to his father, curious about Aki's absence. Hisashi informed him that Aki had left early without revealing his destination, only mentioning he would return soon. Izuku acknowledged this with a nod. Hisashi reminded Izuku about the banquet that evening, which would determine the next head of their clan, urging him to attend. Izuku agreed, assuring his father he would be there. His mother, Mika, expressed her hopes for Izuku to find a girl who matched the qualities they had heard about from Kai. Bella chimed in, noting that the traits Izuku sought were reminiscent of his father's. Izuku glanced at Kai, who appeared nervous and avoided eye contact. He simply responded with a non-committal acknowledgement. Inko reassured him that he would eventually meet someone special who would change his life. Izuku expressed his doubts, mentioning that most girls interested in him seemed overly eager, and he questioned whether there was anyone strong enough to challenge him. Hana suggested that perhaps today would be the day he met that girl. Hisashi echoed this sentiment, recalling how he had found Izuku's mother. Izuku finished his meal, stood up, and grabbed his AirPods, looking back at his family. He announced his departure, receiving a warm farewell from Alice, who wished him a good day. He smiled at her before heading to the garage to retrieve his bike. After a 20-minute ride, he arrived at school. As he entered, he was met with excited shouts from the girls, who admired his looks. Some approached him, eager for autographs and questions, which he answered with a heavy sigh, reflecting on the challenges of being popular. After signing a few autographs, he made his way to class, passing two of the most popular girls without acknowledging them. The boys nearby were astonished by his indifference. They commented on how he had ignored two of the most attractive girls in school, noting his reputation as the cold, dark prince and his consistent success. They marveled at how he had turned down over 500 girls, a number that seemed to grow daily. Meanwhile, a group of students observed Izuku from a distance, discussing his presence and the aura he exuded. One student expressed a longing to recruit him into their group, believing that with his help, they could escape an unwanted marriage. Another warned about Izuku's cold demeanor and questioned how they would approach him. The ambitious student remained confident, revealing that the Midoriya family was hosting a banquet that night, where she planned to charm Izuku and make him hers. Her companion acknowledged the invitation extended to their clan and others, agreeing that she would pursue her goal at the event. Izuku arrived in class, greeted by his teacher, Miss Suna, who noted his early arrival. He exchanged pleasantries with her, as she regarded him as her favorite student due to his academic excellence and willingness to assist her. Curious about the day's agenda, Izuku asked if they would be doing anything special. Miss Suna explained that she planned to discuss future careers and schools with the class. Izuku then extended an invitation to her for the banquet that evening, which she accepted with gratitude and a smile. He then took a seat and began to read his book while waiting for the other students to arrive. Izuku thought about how, after school, he might treat himself to some mint chocolate ice cream. As other students arrived, his classmates from Class 1A, along with some from Class 1B, noticed him, their cheeks flushing at the sight of Izuku. Momo thought to herself that Izuku looked handsome as always. Ochako mused that it should be illegal for someone to be that attractive. Kendo remarked that whoever dated him would be the luckiest woman in the world. Jiru considered him every woman's dream. Mina attempted to engage Izuku in conversation, but he remained indifferent, not acknowledging her. The girls knew how distant he could be, as many had tried to approach or befriend him, but he never responded. Bakugo arrived with his friends and disrupted Izuku's reading by causing an explosion that knocked the book from his hands. Katsuki challenged Izuku, declaring that today would be the day he proved he was stronger. He insisted that today was the day he would defeat Izuku, whom he referred to as the heavenly demon. Bakugo struggled to accept that Izuku was stronger than him, leading him to challenge Izuku repeatedly, only to face defeat each time. Izuku remained silent, his expression unchanging. He warned Bakugo for the last time, indicating that he did not want to engage in a fight. Those words sent chills down everyone's spine as Izuku's cold, calculating gaze met Bakugo's. He asserted that nothing would change, no matter how many people Bakugo brought, they would still be weak. Katsuki insisted that today everything would change, and he would finally prove that he was the strongest. Izuku stood up, hands in his pockets, and asked if Bakugo truly wanted to proceed. Bakugo's lackeys surrounded Izuku, prompting him to sigh heavily. He decided to make it quick but first pulled out his phone to make a call. He requested an ambulance to come to 𝐼𝐻𝐬. The others were taken aback. After confirming the number of people involved, he estimated around 50 and asked how long it would take for help to arrive. He was told it would take about 10 to 20 minutes. After ending the call, he addressed his classmates, asking Miss Suna to take everyone and leave for a moment. Miss Suna agreed, reminding him to be careful as she led everyone out. With a small smile, Izuku turned to Bakugo and his friends, ready to begin. As Bakugo and his goons charged at him, Izuku smiled slightly. After a few moments, the only sounds that filled the air were the sounds of destruction and cries for help. When Miss Suna returned with the ambulance team, they were shocked to find the classroom in disarray, with several students knocked out and some with injuries. Bakugo was seen slumped against a wall, incapacitated. Izuku approached the ambulance team, hands still in his pockets. He greeted them, noting their arrival. Miss Suna sighed as she looked at him, questioning whether he had to go that far. Izuku replied that they had it coming and that they should be grateful he only broke a few bones instead of causing more serious harm. Miss Suna acknowledged his point. Izuku decided to leave, stating there was nothing more for him to do. As he stepped outside, he noticed Kiba approaching, his eyes glowing slightly. Izuku's tone was cold as he asked what Kiba wanted. Kiba felt a chill as he looked at Izuku, sensing an overwhelming darkness. When he tried to check Izuku's status, it returned an error, leaving him stunned. Kiba thought to himself that even 𝐒𝐻𝐬 status would not return an error. Izuku demanded to know what Kiba wanted. Kiba, sweating nervously, informed him that 𝐼𝐻𝐬 would like to see him if he didn't mind. Izuku considered the request, surprised that 𝐼𝐻𝐬, heir to the 𝐒𝐮𝐬 clan, wanted to see him. Izuku agreed to follow Kiba, requesting that he not waste his time. Kiba nodded quickly and led Izuku to the Orc Research Club. Upon entering, Izuku noticed 𝐼𝐻𝐬 seated with her peerage behind her. 𝐼𝐻𝐬 greeted Izuku midoryia, introducing herself as 𝐼𝐻𝐬. She expressed her pleasure and honor in meeting the strongest prodigy of their generation and invited him to take a seat. Izuku nodded slightly and sat down. 𝐼𝐻𝐬 then instructed Akino to bring some tea. Akino placed the tea on the table with a smile directed at Izuku, who acknowledged her with a nod as she returned to her position. As Izuku observed 𝐼𝐻𝐬 and her peerage, he sensed their weakness. The auras surrounding them were faint, and he thought to himself that it was pitiful for 𝐼𝐻𝐬 to be the next heir to the 𝐒𝐮𝐬 clan while being so weak. He felt a sense of pity for their clan. He then asked 𝐼𝐻𝐬 why she wanted to see him. 𝐼𝐻𝐬 mentioned that she believed he was aware of the supernatural. Izuku confirmed that he was. 𝐼𝐻𝐬 got straight to the point, expressing her longing for him to join her peerage. After explaining the benefits of becoming a devil, she looked at Izuku, waiting for his response. 𝐼𝐻𝐬 eagerly asked if he would join her peerage. Izuku remained silent for a moment, and a dark, menacing aura began to envelop him. The atmosphere in the room grew dense, making it difficult for 𝐼𝐻𝐬 and her peerage to breathe. Izuku locked eyes with 𝐼𝐻𝐬, his gaze cold and unreadable. Kaneko felt an instinctive urge to remain still, sensing that Izuku was the predator and she was the prey, causing her to tremble. Izuku firmly stated that he would refuse 𝐼𝐻𝐬. 𝐼𝐻𝐬's eyes widened in shock. No one had ever rejected her before, especially not when Issei had not yet joined her peerage. She expressed disbelief, emphasizing the benefits he could gain as a devil, including a long life. Izuku dismissed her claims, stating he had no interest in those benefits and would merely be a pawn for the rest of his life. He asserted his identity as a midoryia, a man who did not bow to anyone and stood tall in the face of challenges. He noted that none of them could help him achieve his goals and dreams, leading him to refuse her offer. As he stood to leave, Rias grasped his hand, pleading with him to reconsider. Izuku looked at her with a sidelong glance and told her to leave him alone before departing. The scene shifted to an evening banquet attended by many prominent figures, including the President of America, the 𝐒𝐬 family, the Uchiha family, and the Uzumaki family. Guests enjoyed the festivities while Hisashi conversed with various clan heads. Minato complimented Hisashi on the event, to which Hisashi expressed gratitude. Inko mingled with other guests, while Kai enjoyed drinks with his girlfriend, Victoria. Aki, at the bar, smirked, thinking about becoming the head of his clan that day. Victoria inquired about her brother-in-law's whereabouts, noting she hadn't seen him. Kai speculated that he might still be getting ready, commenting on how he loved to take his time. As guests began to ask Hisashi about Izuku's arrival and the announcement of the new head of the Midoriya clan, Hisashi reassured them that Izuku was likely preparing and would arrive soon. Suddenly, footsteps echoed as Izuku descended the stairs, capturing the attention of everyone in the room. His appearance drew admiration, especially from the girls, who blushed at his handsomeness. Izuku greeted the crowd, apologizing for his tardiness. Mika complimented Izuku on his outfit, and he smiled slightly in response, thanking her. Hisashi welcomed him, and Kai remarked on Izuku's preference for black clothing, teasing him about the color dominating his wardrobe. Izuku defended his choice, asserting that he liked it and that it suited him, while also asking if his outfit looked good. Kai acknowledged the cleanliness of the venue, feeling a sense of satisfaction. Victoria greeted him with a cheerful tone, playfully addressing him as her dear brother-in-law. Izuku sighed as he turned his gaze toward Victoria, responding with a simple acknowledgement. Victoria noticed his mood and teased him, asking why he looked so down, reminding him that they would soon be family. Izuku sighed heavily, feeling her playful agitation. After the banquet, several girls approached Izuku, asking him to dance, but he politely declined, as none of them caught his interest. He also had the opportunity to meet Hisashi and his mother's friends. As the festivities continued, Hisashi tapped his glass to gain everyone's attention. Hisashi announced that he would reveal his successor and the next heir to the Midoriya clan. The crowd buzzed with curiosity, speculating about who it might be. Hisashi shared that he had consulted with his wives and father before making the decision. He then introduced the vice president of the clan, who would serve as the clan head's right-hand man, his son, Kai Midoriya. Kai was taken aback by this honor, and the audience erupted into applause. Izuku smiled, proud of his brother's achievement. Hisashi presented Kai with a badge adorned with their clan symbol, while their mother beamed with pride. Mika encouraged Kai, assuring him he would excel in his new role, and Inko echoed her sentiment. Izuku felt a sense of happiness for his brother, while Aki, feeling competitive, impatiently urged Hisashi to announce the clan head, convinced it would be him. Hisashi then smiled warmly, filled with pride and joy, as he declared that the heir to the Midoriya clan would be his youngest son, Izuku Midoriya. Aki's eyes widened in shock and disbelief as news reporters began capturing the moment, and girls blushed at Izuku's charm and looks. Izuku reflected on his father's choice, surprised that he had been selected over Aki. Hisashi affirmed Izuku's role as his successor, encouraging him to continue making both him and their mother proud. Aki, consumed by anger, glared at Izuku, his teeth grinding in frustration as jealousy boiled within him. As the scene unfolded, applause filled the air for Izuku, who stood at the center of attention. Aki seethed with envy, recalling their past sparring matches where Izuku consistently emerged victorious. Izuku would often look down at Aki with a cold gaze, his ego evident even in their brotherly rivalry. He reminded Aki that he was too soft, never managing to defeat him. Aki's anger intensified as he remembered a particular match where Izuku effortlessly blocked all his attacks. Izuku sensed the bloodlust in Aki's strikes and pointed it out, highlighting the intensity behind his brother's actions. The tension escalated as Izuku countered with swift and powerful swings, leaving Aki struggling to keep up. Izuku warned Aki that if he continued to act this way, he would never surpass him. A dark aura surrounded Izuku as he looked down at Aki, his eyes glowing with determination. He emphasized that strength was earned through hard work, not given, urging Aki to prove his worth if he desired the title of clan head. As the flashback ended, Aki walked away, still fixated on Izuku, who stood resolute in his newfound role. Aki thought about how soon he would claim the position of clan head, eagerly anticipating the moment he could prove himself superior to his little brother. He was determined to ensure that his father would regret his choice. As Aki prepared to leave, Mika noticed him and approached, stopping him as he glanced at their mother. She expressed concern, asking where he was going since the banquet was still ongoing. Aki, wearing a forced smile, assured her that he was simply stepping out for some fresh air. Mika watched him depart, a sense of unease settling over her. Something felt off, he didn't seem happy. Meanwhile, Izuku was mingling with the guests when Inko called for him. He made his way over, curious about what she wanted. Inko pointed out the many appealing girls at the banquet, asking if any had caught his interest. Izuku shrugged, dismissing them as not his type, and noted that most seemed overly eager. Inko, undeterred, mentioned a girl she wanted him to meet, insisting that she was interesting and a perfect match for him. Despite his reluctance, Izuku found himself unable to resist her pleading eyes, ultimately agreeing to meet the girl. Inko excitedly led him through the crowd, and Izuku chuckled at her youthful enthusiasm. She called out to Victoria, who turned with a smile. Inko requested that Victoria fetch her sister, explaining that she wanted her to meet Izuku. Victoria, intrigued, agreed and set off to find her sister. Inko returned to Izuku, who was sipping wine, despite her earlier attempts to remind him that he wasn't of age. She decided to let it go. Curious about Inko's conversation with Victoria, Izuku asked for details. Inko affectionately referred to him as her baby boy, which prompted him to request that she stop calling him that since he was 15. Inko giggled, playfully pinching his cheeks. She explained that she had asked Victoria to bring her sister so that Izuku could meet her. Izuku's eyes widened in surprise, nearly spilling his drink as he processed the information. He couldn't believe that Victoria had a sister. Inko admonished him not to call his sister-in-law crazy, but Izuku couldn't help but wonder how Kai had fallen for her. Just then, Victoria returned with her sister, teasing Izuku about his earlier comment. He turned to face them, and upon seeing Victoria's sister, he was left speechless. Her beauty was stunning, and he felt a blush creeping onto his cheeks, surprising both Inko and Victoria, as Izuku had never reacted this way to any girl before. Victoria's sister had accomplished something remarkable. She had made the usually stoic Izuku blush. Both Inko and Victoria exchanged astonished glances, realizing the significance of this moment. Izuku thought to himself that he hadn't expected Victoria to have such a captivating sister. He felt a spark of connection and smiled slightly as he introduced himself, expressing his pleasure in meeting her. The girl, noticing his height and handsome appearance, smiled back. She introduced herself as 𝐒𝐮, Victoria's younger sister, and expressed her own pleasure in meeting him. 𝐒𝐮 would play an important role in Izuku's life, contributing to his character development in ways that would unfold in the future. Though challenges awaited her, the details would reveal themselves in time. Izuku suggested they go out for a drink to get to know each other better, and 𝐒𝐮 happily agreed. As they left, Inko and Victoria were left speechless, with Inko expressing her surprise at how her sister had achieved the impossible. Victoria remarked that she never thought she would see Izuku blush. Inko decided they should share the news with Kai, Hisashi, and the rest of the family, and Victoria eagerly agreed. They set off to inform everyone about the unexpected development. Meanwhile, Izuku and 𝐒𝐮 spent time together, discovering that she was gentle, kind, and caring, qualities Izuku had been searching for in a girl. Kai, Hisashi, Alice, and the other mothers were astonished that someone could make Izuku blush, but they were also happy for him, realizing he had finally found someone he liked. As the days passed after the banquet, Izuku and 𝐒𝐮 began to develop feelings for each other. Izuku decided to seek advice from his mothers on how to confess his feelings, even after learning that 𝐒𝐮 was 3 years older than him, which didn't bother him at all. He knocked on her door, asking if he could come in. Inko welcomed him inside, where he found his mothers chatting and enjoying each other's company. Mika inquired about what he needed, and Izuku shared his longing to confess to 𝐻𝐬, seeking their guidance. His mother's eyes widened with excitement, and they jumped in joy, leaving Izuku momentarily dumbfounded. They calmed down, and Hana suggested that he take 𝐻𝐬 on a date to a appealing spot and confess his feelings there. Izuku found the idea appealing and thanked her, giving Hana a kiss on the cheek before leaving to prepare for the date. Suddenly, Aki appeared in front of Izuku, demanding his attention. Izuku sighed, expressing his frustration at being interrupted. Aki challenged him to a duel for the position of clan head, which caught Izuku off guard. With a serious expression, Izuku told Aki he didn't have time for games. Aki taunted him, suggesting he was afraid of losing. Izuku reminded Aki that he had never been able to defeat him in the past and questioned why he thought things would be different now. Aki insisted that this time would be different, and Izuku reluctantly agreed to the duel, stating he needed to make it quick because of his date with 𝐻𝐬. They moved to the duel arena, where the entire midoryia family gathered to watch. Alice asked Hisashi who he thought would win, and Hisashi acknowledged Aki's experience but believed Izuku would outclass him. Kai remarked that the fight seemed pointless, while Mika wondered why Aki was so fixated on becoming the clan head. As the duel began, Aki rushed at Izuku with his sword, which was coated in poison. He attempted to slash Izuku, who skillfully dodged the attack. Aki unleashed a flurry of punches and kicks, but Izuku evaded them all. Aki then executed a sword technique called chaos barrage, sending multiple slashes toward Izuku. Izuku picked up a stick, ready to defend himself. He gripped it tightly and swung it, successfully countering Aki's attacks. As the fight continued, Aki activated his unique ability and appeared behind Izuku, catching him off guard. He slashed Izuku across the chest with the poison sword, causing his shirt to burn. Hisashi noticed this and realized the danger of the poison. Aki struck again, causing Izuku's veins to turn green, which shocked the midoryia family as they realized Aki had used poison on him. However, thanks to Izuku's unique abilities, he was immune to the poison and quickly blitzed Aki. Izuku confronted Aki, expressing his disbelief at how far Aki was willing to go and questioning his obsession with the position of clan head. He then struck Izuku again, who braced himself for the impact, positioning himself in front of Aki. Aki was filled with frustration, questioning why the poison seemed ineffective against Izuku. Izuku retaliated with a powerful punch to Aki's stomach, causing him to cough up a significant amount of blood. Aki let out a furious roar. Izuku forcefully slammed Aki to the ground, and Aki continued to cough up blood. Izuku unleashed a series of devastating blows. Izuku expressed his anger, accusing Aki of trying to eliminate him simply to claim the clan head position. Aki shouted back, insisting that Izuku knew nothing and that he was meant to lead the clan and family. He lamented that Izuku had taken everything from him and wished he had never been born. Izuku was momentarily taken aback by Aki's harsh words. The atmosphere was tense as Izuku activated his ultra instinct. Aki seized him by the face and slammed him against the wall, but Izuku countered by breaking Aki's grip. Izuku declared that it was time for Aki to rest and expressed his outrage at Aki's disrespectful words about their mother. With a swift motion, Izuku redirected his body and used immense force to counter Aki's hold, slamming him to the ground with such power that Aki lost his ultra instinct and fell unconscious, twisting his arm in the process. Izuku stood over his brother, his eyes returning to normal, a sad expression crossing his face. He reflected on how Aki had changed, wondering what had happened to the brother he once knew. Afterward, their family came to check on Izuku, relieved to find him unharmed, thanks to his resilience and ultra instinct. As a consequence of his actions and attempts to harm Izuku, Aki was banished from the midoryia family, with the understanding that he could return once he had sorted himself out. Aki had tried to seize control of the clan but had failed miserably, thanks to the combined efforts of Izuku, Kai, and Hisashi. Izuku also took 𝐻𝐬 on a date, where they enjoyed each other's company and shared quality time together. They went shopping and later found themselves at Izuku's favorite spot as the sun began to set. 𝐻𝐬 asked why he had brought her there. Izuku explained that he wanted to share something important with her. He smiled warmly, causing her to blush, and expressed his feelings, telling her how much he admired her beauty, kindness, and courage. He asked if she would be his girlfriend. 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽's eyes widened with emotion as she felt tears welling up. She smiled back at him, happily accepting his proposal. They leaned in closer and shared an appealing kiss that felt magical, as if it were a scene from a movie. After several moments, they broke the kiss, both slightly breathless. 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽 complimented Izuku on his kissing skills, to which he responded with a chuckle and gratitude. She noted that it was getting late, suggesting he should take her home. Izuku agreed, offering to drop her off and suggesting they meet again the next day. As they headed to Izuku's car, he drove her home and shared a warm hug before she entered her house. 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽 mentioned that her sister would be home soon and asked him to call her once he got home. Izuku assured her he would. They exchanged a quick kiss before he drove home, where he found the house empty. He asked the maid about his family and learned they were all out for the day. The maid informed him that his mother had left food for him, suggesting he eat since they wouldn't be back soon. Izuku thanked her and planned to eat after taking a shower. The maid bowed and confirmed that the water was already prepared for him. Izuku expressed his appreciation and headed to his room to shower. Once finished, he dressed in black briefs and a black shirt. Izuku finished his shower and decided to call Cha. He picked up his phone, but the call went straight to voicemail, which he found unusual since Cha always answered. After 30 minutes of trying, he finally got through. Aki's voice came through, telling him that Cha was currently busy and he wouldn't be able to speak to her. Izuku's eyes widened in alarm. He demanded to know how Aki had Cha's phone and what he had done to her. Aki calmly reassured him, saying he was just visiting his sister-in-law and there was no need to worry. Izuku, frustrated, insisted that Aki cut the nonsense and tell him what was happening. Aki then switched the call to video, revealing an unconscious and bruised Cha in his arms. Izuku's heart raced as he saw the state she was in, with visible injuries and blood on her forehead. Panic and fear surged through him as he called out her name, threatening Aki with dire consequences if he harmed her. Aki seemed amused by Izuku's reaction and taunted him, saying he wanted Izuku to suffer. He proposed a game. Izuku had 3 hours to find Cha, or Aki would end her life. Aki pointed a gun at Cha's head, grinning maniacally, and reminded Izuku that time was running out before abruptly ending the call. Izuku rushed downstairs and hopped on his bike, racing to Cha's house. He called his parents and brother, along with Victoria, to inform them of Aki's actions. They were all shocked that Aki would go so far. Hisashi assured Izuku that they were already searching for her and that she would be found soon. Upon arriving at Cha's house, Izuku discovered it was in disarray, filled with destruction. Anger boiled within him as he vowed to make Aki pay. Suddenly he sensed danger and dodged a bullet, quickly locating the shooter. He moved with lightning speed, appearing behind the man and slamming him to the ground. As rain began to fall, Izuku glared down at the terrified man, demanding to know Aki's whereabouts. The man remained silent, which only fueled Izuku's rage. He pressed the man for answers, threatening him with dire consequences. The man, despite his fear, tried to maintain his bravado, but Izuku's bloodlust was palpable. Izuku's intensity grew as he demanded answers, asking if he looked like a hero to the man. He began to choke him, and the man finally revealed that Aki was hiding at an abandoned midoryia warehouse. Realizing he needed to act quickly, Izuku made a grim decision and eliminated the man before using his powers to boost his speed. He rushed toward the warehouse, determined to save Cha. Meanwhile, Cha began to regain consciousness, noticing Aki preparing a sniper. Aki noticed that his sister-in-law was finally awake. He had used an injection to block her quirk, light manipulation, rendering her unable to use it for the time being. 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽 glared at him, clearly annoyed by his taunts. She didn't appreciate being called sister-in-law, especially by him. Aki feigned hurt, pretending to be affected by her words. He then revealed that he was waiting to take a shot at her lover when he arrived, boasting that his sniper was loaded with deadly poisonous mana bullets. 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽 scoffed, confident that Izuku's enhanced durability, thanks to his devil/demon back, would protect him. She believed there was no way Aki's bullets could harm him, especially since Izuku would sense danger from a distance. Aki smirked, explaining that the warehouse was surrounded by barriers that interfered with her senses and thoughts. He mentioned that the bullets were crafted with help from his allies in the League of Apocalypse. 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐬's eyes widened in realization as Aki continued, asserting that while his brother was durable, he had not yet reached their father's level of strength, and Izuku had not unlocked his full potential. This would make him vulnerable to Aki's attack. As Aki left, 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐬 struggled against the chains binding her, determined to break free and save Izuku. Meanwhile, Izuku arrived at the warehouse, feeling disoriented. His instincts were on high alert, sensing something was off. He realized he couldn't rely on his ultra instinct in this situation, as it required clarity of mind. Suddenly, an army of armed men charged at him. Fueled by determination, he rushed toward them, ready to clash. Despite feeling weakened by the barriers and the mysterious smoke, Izuku fought fiercely, taking down Aki's men with impressive skill. He dodged an incoming attack from one man and retaliated with a powerful kick that sent his opponent crashing into a wall. Two more attackers approached from behind, but he swiftly evaded their kicks, grabbing their heads and slamming them to the ground. Three more men leaped at him, but Izuku utilized close-quarters combat, sending them flying with his strikes. He unleashed a flurry of rapid kicks, culminating in a punch that created a hole in another adversary. The onlookers were astonished, questioning who this incredible fighter was. They had been told he would be weakened, yet he was proving to be a formidable opponent. Izuku launched a punch that generated a powerful gust of wind, sending several attackers sprawling. Just then, a giant humanoid creature appeared, delivering a punch that sent him crashing into a wall. Izuku stared at the creature, realizing it was a high-end Nomu. It threw another punch, but he quickly grabbed an umbrella nearby and blocked the attack. Acknowledging the creature's strength, he decided he didn't have time to deal with it. Spotting a hammer on the ground, he picked it up and struck the Nomu with incredible speed, forcing it back. Increasing the intensity of his attacks, he aimed to deal significant damage. Fueled by determination, he shouted as he slammed the Nomu to the ground, activating his removal ability even in his weakened state. He knelt on the Nomu, grabbing its head and delivering a series of punches, his hands surrounded by a purple aura as his veins pulsed with energy. Though the Nomu had already been incapacitated after the second punch, Izuku continued to strike, consumed by his resolve. Eventually, he stopped, standing up and rushing further into the warehouse. More men were advancing toward him, and in a fit of anger, he spotted a sword near a fallen body. He seized it and charged at the approaching foes, ready to fight back. Izuku delivered a powerful kick to the man's face, reclaiming his sword and swiftly dispatching two more foes as he charged toward the remaining attackers. His sword skills had reached an incredible level, allowing him to take them down at an astonishing pace. Despite feeling exhausted, Izuku pushed his body to its absolute limits, determined to keep fighting. He roared with fierce determination, urging himself to move faster, knowing that it was a matter of life and death. Meanwhile, Kai and Victoria arrived at 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐬's house, searching for any clues about her whereabouts. They noticed BLD scattered around the area, indicating that something had happened. Kai speculated that Izuku must have been there, while Victoria pointed out a lifeless body outside the house. Frustrated, she slammed her hand on the table, breaking it in her anger, vowing to take revenge if anything had happened to her sister. Kai embraced Victoria, trying to calm her down. He reassured her that they would find her sister and that Izuku would save her. Victoria wiped her tears and nodded in agreement. Suddenly, Kai received a call from one of his men who had been searching for Cha. He answered and put the call on speaker, eager for any information. The caller confirmed they had tracked one of Aki's men and found the last call he made to Aki, leading them to a specific location. Kai's expression shifted to one of urgency as he learned it was an abandoned warehouse. He instructed the caller to send the location to his father immediately before hanging up. With determination, he activated his elemental manipulation and demonic powers, rushing toward the location with Victoria following closely behind. She charged her mana and used her light manipulation to enhance her speed, moving at an incredible pace. Back at the warehouse, Izuku had finished off all the attackers but fell to one knee, breathing heavily as his stamina dwindled. His vision blurred, and he felt the weight of exhaustion pressing down on him. Yet, memories of Cha's smile fueled his resolve, and he stood up, pushing his body beyond its limits once more. He called out for Cha, searching frantically through the warehouse. Above him, Aki prepared to take aim, confident that Izuku's senses were compromised. He fired multiple poison mana bullets, taunting Izuku as he did so. At the last moment, Izuku's instincts kicked in, but his body betrayed him, causing him to cough up blood and collapse to his knees. He turned around, only to be met with a sight that filled him with shock and despair. Cha stood before him, having taken the bullets meant for him. She fell to the ground, and Izuku rushed to catch her in his arms, calling out her name in anguish. He desperately tried to stop the bleeding, his heart breaking as he saw the love of his life on the brink of death. Cha smiled weakly, placing her hand on his cheek as she struggled to speak. She expressed her longing to protect him, even at the cost of her own life. Izuku, tears streaming down his face, promised to get her to the hospital, insisting she would be fine. But Cha stopped him, her eyes filled with tears as she told him it was already too late for her. Izuku's heart shattered at her words, and he couldn't bear the thought of living without her. He kissed her forehead, overwhelmed with sorrow. Cha asked him to promise her something, and he agreed to anything. She urged him not to let her death affect him, to keep moving forward, and to remain open to love when it came knocking again. With a heavy heart, Izuku forced a small smile, caressing her cheek as tears continued to fall. He vowed to honor her wishes, no matter how painful it would be. Izuku made a promise, his voice barely a whisper. Cha-hin responded with a gentle affirmation, summoning the last of her strength to kiss Izuku one final time. As their lips parted, she smiled at him, a bittersweet expression that would linger in his memory. She confessed her love for him, her voice soft yet filled with emotion. With that, she closed her eyes, a serene smile gracing her features as she slipped away. Izuku gently laid her down on the ground, silence enveloping him as he stared at the lifeless form of his beloved. Shadows cloaked his face, hiding the turmoil within. Aki leaped down from the rooftop, landing with a flourish as laughter erupted from him, a cruel sound that cut through the air. He mocked Izuku, calling him pathetic for failing to protect Cha-hin, taunting him with the title of little brother. Aki reveled in the moment, reminding Izuku of the day their father had banished him, vowing to take everything from Izuku and make him suffer. With a snap of his fingers, Aki summoned his henchmen from the shadows, their presence adding to the tension in the air. They jeered at Izuku, reveling in his despair, their laughter ringing hollow against the backdrop of the pouring rain. Suddenly, a heavy pressure descended upon them, an overwhelming aura of bloodlust that forced everyone to their knees. The atmosphere thickened, suffocating and foreboding. Aki's eyes widened in shock as he realized the source of this oppressive energy was Izuku, who remained on his knees, a storm brewing within him. Inside Izuku, something profound shifted. His heart darkened, consumed by an overwhelming force as a purple aura enveloped him, marking the awakening of his true potential. The sky transformed, crackling with purple lightning, and the air was thick with an aura of sorrow and despair that resonated with Izuku's grief. Kai sensed the change, halting in his tracks as he felt the weight of the aura. Victoria struggled to remain upright, overwhelmed by the intensity of the pressure, her confusion evident. Hisashi's eyes widened in realization, recognizing the aura as belonging to Izuku, a mix of death and sorrow permeating the air. Inko, concerned, questioned Hisashi, who explained the gravity of the situation. Kai and Victoria exchanged worried glances, understanding that something terrible had happened to Cha-hin. Hisashi confirmed their fears, acknowledging that Izuku had finally awakened something within himself. Back with Izuku, a pivotal moment occurred as the darkness within him snapped, heralding the awakening of the heavenly demon. His demonic form emerged, a visage of sorrow and rage that sent a chill through Aki. Memories of happier times with Cha-hin flooded Izuku's mind, fueling his transformation. Izuku turned his gaze toward Aki, the pressure and bloodlust intensifying. Aki's fear grew as he witnessed Izuku's transformation into a state of heightened power, his eyes now glowing purple, tears streaming down his face as he struggled to maintain control. Aki's panic escalated, realizing that Izuku had entered a state of true ultra instinct, but with a twist. His pupils were no longer green, but purple, a sign of his emotional turmoil. As Izuku rose, Aki commanded his men to attack, their hesitation evident. Yet they charged at him, driven by fear and desperation. Izuku unleashed his newfound strength, effortlessly overpowering Aki's henchmen, each punch resonating with an intensity that left them in shock. He seized two men by their heads, slamming them into the ground, their expressions shifting from aggression to sheer terror. Extra 7. What is happening? How is he so powerful? Extra 8. He's a monster. Aki was stunned as he watched Izuku completely overpower his men. With each strike, they fell, some attempting to flee, but Izuku would swiftly appear behind them, incapacitating them effortlessly. Izuku moved with the ferocity of a wild beast, advancing toward Aki. The aura surrounding him intensified, becoming denser, causing Aki's eyes to widen in shock and fear. He fell to his knees, breathing heavily and coughing. Aki thought to himself that this shouldn't be possible. His stamina should have been depleted after using his abilities so many times in his weakened state. Izuku remained silent, his presence overwhelming. In an instant, Izuku vanished, reappearing behind Aki and launching a punch. Aki managed to block it, but the force shattered his arm, leaving him in disbelief. As Izuku seized him by the head, Aki activated his abilities in a desperate attempt to escape, but Izuku's strength was insurmountable. He slammed Aki to the ground, causing him to cough violently. Izuku then incapacitated Aki further, delivering a series of relentless blows. Aki struggled to fight back, but the disparity in their strength was too great. Aki felt his bones protesting with each impact, realizing that if this continued, he might not survive. Izuku's strikes grew stronger and faster, overwhelming him completely. With a powerful punch, Izuku sent Aki crashing into a wall. Without hesitation, he charged at Aki again, who was still reeling from the previous blow. Izuku unleashed a flurry of strikes, employing various martial arts techniques, each one more powerful than the last. Aki was unable to defend himself, caught in a relentless assault. Izuku then grabbed Aki's face, dragging it across the wall, causing him to cough up blood. He slammed Aki to the ground repeatedly, demonstrating his demps. Aki realized he was trapped, unable to break free from Izuku's grip. Izuku hurled him into a wall, leaving Aki in a battered state. As Izuku approached, his expression remained unreadable. Aki, feeling the weight of his impending defeat, thought that at this rate, he would not survive. Izuku loomed over him, his eyes returning to normal as steam began to rise from his body. He declared that Aki did not deserve an easy end and vowed to make him suffer. Suddenly, a portal of purple mist appeared, and two formidable figures emerged, kicking Izuku back and forcing him to release Aki. Izuku glared at the newcomers. Aki, still struggling, muttered that this wasn't over. Izuku, filled with determination, refused to let Aki escape. He was about to charge at him when he noticed the new arrivals rushing toward Aki's fallen body. In a flash, he intercepted them, slamming their heads into the ground, eliminating the threat. Izuku turned his attention to the closing portal, shouting in frustration. He vowed to make those responsible pay for their actions, promising that they would face true despair and fear. His voice echoed with rage, resonating across the world as he declared that he would not rest until he had his revenge. He warned Aki that his days were numbered and that he would ensure he faced the consequences of his actions. As Izuku calmed slightly, he breathed heavily, steam rising from his injuries, a testament to the battle that had just unfolded. He then entered the warehouse, discovering something he could use to cover the body. After picking it up, he began walking toward the entrance. Izuku stood in silence, lost in thought. After leaving the warehouse, Izuku's family arrived and found the lifeless body of a man on the ground. Inko, along with the rest of Izuku's family and Alice, covered their mouths in shock. Inko wondered what had happened there. Alice remarked that it looked like a massacre had taken place. Hisashi remained silent, absorbing the scene. Suddenly, they heard footsteps approaching. They turned to see Izuku emerging from the warehouse, injured and with steam rising from his body. Everyone rushed toward him, but he raised a hand to stop them. He gently placed the covered body on the ground. Victoria began asking Izuku about his sister, but he remained quiet. Izuku was lost in his thoughts. Victoria then grabbed Izuku by the collar, demanding to know where her sister was. Izuku slowly removed the white cloak covering the body, causing the Midoriya family to gasp in shock, fear, and despair. He revealed that Aki had killed her, and he couldn't save her. Overcome with emotion, Izuku's body gave out, and he collapsed. Victoria caught him, and he began to cry on her shoulder. He expressed his sorrow, saying he was sorry for not being able to save her, that she had died protecting him. Victoria's eyes widened as she felt the depth of Izuku's grief. She hugged him tightly, wishing for a moment of comfort that wasn't overshadowed by tragedy. It pained everyone to see Izuku in such a state. Victoria comforted him, assuring him that everything would be okay and that he could let it all out because she was there for him. Hisashi asked where Aki had gone. Izuku explained that Aki had escaped, and he recounted the events that had transpired, leaving everyone shocked and speechless. He shared how he had fought against Aki's men, even in his weakened state. Exhausted, Izuku eventually fell asleep on Victoria's shoulder. They then prepared the body for her funeral. Days passed, and Izuku struggled to eat or smile, causing his family great concern as they witnessed his suffering. He continued to blame himself for her death, believing it was his fault for being weak. One day before the funeral, Inko entered Izuku's dark room with a plate of food, knowing he hadn't eaten in days. She called out to him, but received no response. Turning on the lights, she found Izuku sitting quietly in a chair, his hand on his face, eyes closed. Inko pleaded with him to eat something, expressing her concern for his well-being. Izuku replied that he wasn't hungry and asked her to leave the food on the table. Inko acknowledged his pain, understanding how deeply Aki's death had affected him. She reminded him that his sister would be sad to see him like this, emphasizing her love for him and her sacrifice for his life. Inko sat beside her son, gently patting his head and kissing his forehead. She reminded him of the promise he had made to her sister, urging him not to let her death bring him down. Inko recognized his longing for revenge against Aki but emphasized the importance of taking care of himself and growing stronger to avenge her. She reassured him that blaming himself wouldn't change anything or bring her back. Inko acknowledged their shared sadness and encouraged him to honor her sacrifice by becoming stronger, ensuring that no one else would suffer the same fate. She reminded him that life would have its ups and downs, but if the world tried to break him, he should break the world instead. Izuku began to recall the moments when his sister had encouraged him to never give up and to keep pushing forward. He remembered the promise he made to her before she died in his arms. A low chuckle escaped him as he managed a small smile at his mother. He thanked her, realizing she was right. His sister wouldn't want to see him in such a state. He apologized for worrying her. Inko reassured him that it was okay and encouraged him to focus on being better. With a slight smile, he acknowledged her words. She kissed his forehead, smiling back at him. Inko reminded him that they all carried the memories of those they had lost, but they needed to honor them by growing stronger and continuing to push forward. She assured him that his family, his mother, father, brother, and sister, would always be there for him, supporting him no matter what. Izuku smiled softly, feeling grateful for his mother's support. Inko informed him that she would be heading to eat and get some rest since it was late. They had a funeral to attend the next day. Izuku acknowledged her with a quiet agreement, contemplating the weight of his thoughts. He realized he couldn't remain in this state forever. He needed to grow stronger to ensure that no one else would endure the pain he had experienced. He vowed to become powerful enough that no one could defeat him. He promised himself that he would never again lose someone he loved. After finishing his meal, Izuku took a shower and prepared for bed. The next day arrived with heavy rain. The Midoriya family, along with a few close friends, stood outside dressed in black at the funeral. Izuku held an umbrella, his gaze fixed on the coffin being lowered into the ground. After the service, everyone paid their respects to Cha before beginning to leave. Izuku expressed his gratitude to the family, friends and guests, including some prominent leaders of the country, for their attendance. Victoria approached Izuku, asking if he would join them as they prepared to leave. He requested a moment alone, assuring her he wouldn't take long. She smiled and departed with the family, leaving Izuku alone at Cha's grave. He placed a flower down, honoring her memory. He reflected on all the appealing moments they had shared, grateful for the joy she brought into his life. He promised to protect everyone and fulfill the dreams they had envisioned together. He declared his everlasting love for her, vowing that their memories would shine brightly in his heart. Izuku wished for her soul to find peace in the afterlife. As he looked at the chain she had given him, a serious expression crossed his face, his gaze turning cold and resolute. He thought of Aki, determined that their next encounter would be the last for him. He swore that Cha's sacrifice would not be in vain. He would seek vengeance for her loss. He was prepared to face any obstacle, even if it meant making the entire world his enemy. Izuku was unwavering in his resolve to move forward until all his adversaries were defeated. He warned Aki that his days were numbered because he was coming for him. Time passed, and 3 years later, Izuku had trained relentlessly, becoming stronger than ever. He mastered his unique abilities and achieved peak physical condition, rising to become the clan head of the Midoryia clan. Though he decided to let his father continue running the Midoryia company, he and his brother had made names for themselves. Kai was known as the Elemental Demon, while Izuku earned the title of the Heavenly Demon, though many simply referred to him as Death. Izuku had become a figure of fear, embodying the essence of a monster. Wherever he went, dread followed, extinguishing hope and spreading despair. Confronting him in battle was akin to facing death itself, amplified by his cold, unyielding gaze that promised no mercy. He had become the nightmare of his generation, and Hisashi took pride in the accomplishments of both Izuku and Kai over the years. Izuku traveled the world, honing his skills by learning from elite fighters and adopting their techniques, amassing an infinite array of fighting styles. He was relentless in his pursuit of Aki, who had gone into hiding. However, through his connections and contracts, he discovered that Aki was working with the League of Apocalypse. Alice grew stronger and established herself as the goddess of light, becoming a formidable force as she began collaborating with Victoria. The scene shifts to Hisashi, who gazed out the window with his hands in his pockets, watching the heavy rain fall outside. He reflected on the achievements of his loved ones. Hisashi felt a swell of pride for Kai and Izuku, who had accomplished so much over the past 3 years. He also noted Alice's growth and her rise to prominence. However, his thoughts turned dark when he considered Aki, who had gone into hiding after learning that Izuku was pursuing him. Hisashi felt ashamed to share BLD with someone so cowardly. He vowed that once Izuku found Aki, he would ensure the man faced consequences for his actions, particularly for the harm he had caused to Hisashi's future daughter-in-law. Just then, Kai entered the room, dragging a beaten and bloodied man behind him. Hisashi turned to his son, curious about the situation. Kai revealed that the man was one of Aki's associates, involved in smuggling high-quality weapons to the League of Apocalypse. Hisashi acknowledged the importance of Kai's capture but pressed for information about Aki's whereabouts. Kai explained that the man only shipped the weapons to the docks and did not know where Aki was. Hisashi approached the man, gripping his hair and lifting him slightly. He instructed Kai to ensure the man suffered during interrogation, emphasizing the need for useful information before ending his life. Kai agreed and summoned 2 others to take the man away. Afterward, Kai lit a cigarette and asked about Izuku's return from his trip. Hisashi mentioned that it had been a year and expressed confidence that Izuku would be back soon. Kai shared that their family missed him, and Hisashi noted that Kai had taken on 2 more girlfriends, surprising him with Victoria's willingness to share. They shared a light moment, and Hisashi agreed to have a drink with his son. The scene shifted to a bar on a remote island, where a tall, handsome man with green hair, dressed in a wetsuit, stood outside. He entered the bar, and the atmosphere changed as everyone felt the weight of his presence, causing them to tremble in fear. He approached the counter and requested the strongest drink available. The bartender complied, while one brave patron gathered the courage to ask the man if he was Izuku Midoriya, known as the heavenly demon and the embodiment of death. Izuku acknowledged the recognition, noting that his reputation had spread even to this remote location. As he introduced himself, the patron's eyes widened in shock and fear, recalling the many stories of Izuku's legendary feats. Some bowed their heads in respect, but Izuku urged them to raise their heads, dismissing the need for such gestures. The bartender delivered Izuku's drink, and he expressed his gratitude. As he took a sip, he reflected on the past 3 years, feeling frustrated that he had yet to locate Aki, who seemed to have vanished completely from the world. Izuku reflected on the information he had gathered, realizing that Aki was affiliated with the League of Apocalypse, the same group responsible for the Nomus he had battled 3 years prior. He had pushed past his limits and grown significantly stronger, but now he faced a crucial question: what did he need to achieve his goals? He concluded that he needed to eliminate all corrupted individuals, villains, and anyone connected to Aki. To do this, he had to locate their hideout and understand the connections Aki had, as well as the strength that protected him. He also needed to identify who held the highest position within the organization. With this knowledge, he could devise a plan to take control and seek revenge for his past. As he glanced at the chain given to him by Cha, a small smile crossed his face. After finishing his drink, he left to find a clothing store, purchasing new clothes and essential items for his journey, including a sword. Once he emerged in his new attire, he felt pleased with his appearance and the strength of his sword, confident it would serve him well throughout his adventure. Afterward, he acquired a boat and set sail, settling into a comfortable position as he contemplated taking a quick nap. However, after an hour, his instincts kicked in, alerting him to a flock of birds that began to fill the sky. He stood up, noticing a storm brewing ahead, and sighed heavily, realizing his boat would struggle against it. Determined, he sheathed his sword and gripped it tightly, preparing himself. With a deep breath, he raised the sword high and unleashed a powerful swing, parting the storm clouds and clearing the skies. The boat surged forward, propelled by the wind, and he felt exhilarated as he flicked his fingers, increasing its speed. As he spotted a large island ahead, a mysterious figure on the shore sensed his presence, eyes widening in surprise. This figure wondered if the prophecy was unfolding and if someone would finally claim the legendary sword. With enhanced vision, she focused on Izuku, who felt a chill run down his spine as he sensed her gaze. In response, he released his aura and bloodlust, glaring back at her. The figure smirked, recognizing him as the potential candidate to wield the cursed sword. She decided to test his worthiness. Izuku, meanwhile, felt a strong presence on the island, his instincts urging him to investigate. A smirk formed on his face as he anticipated some excitement. With a sudden burst of power, he punched the boat, sending it soaring into the air before landing gracefully on the shore. As he ventured into the forest, he sensed danger and swiftly dodged multiple arrows shot at him. He turned to see undead knights responsible for the attack. With a swift motion, he dispatched them with a single sword slash, showcasing his strength. His senses heightened again as he narrowly avoided a punch from a four-armed humanoid gorilla, preparing himself for the next challenge that awaited him. Izuku paused, staring in disbelief at the four-armed gorilla before him. It let out a thunderous roar and lunged, throwing a powerful punch. Izuku dodged effortlessly, his eyes widening as he noticed the creature channeling mana through its hands. As it swung a backhand, Izuku caught its arm, intrigued by the display of power. He thought to himself that it was fascinating to see the gorilla utilizing mana. In a swift motion, he tore both of its arms off, eliciting a roar of pain from the creature. With a decisive strike, he knocked its head clean off, ending the threat. Narrowing his eyes, Izuku spotted more humanoid gorillas approaching. A smirk crept across his face as he relished the challenge. It had been a while since he had gone on a hunt, and he was eager for the thrill. With determination, he charged at the incoming gorillas, engaging in a relentless battle that lasted for weeks. Each encounter honed his skills, and he adapted quickly, using the gorillas for sustenance as he had no other food. His senses sharpened, and his techniques became more refined, including the development of new sword techniques. One day, while walking through the forest, he sighed, feeling the weight of his journey. The sword in his hand was losing its sharpness and durability, and he sensed that something was amiss on the island. Expanding his senses, he found no remaining humanoid gorillas. It seemed he had eliminated them all. After a few moments, he discovered a new location, a vast field of grass. He noted that he had crossed into a new territory when suddenly, a shadow loomed over him. Looking up, he saw towering monsters, each standing 30 feet tall, gazing down at him. Izuku felt a thrill at the sight. He was eager to engage with these new foes but knew he had to act quickly. He decided it was time to test the new techniques he had developed. Taking a stance, he summoned a dark aura that caused the monsters to kneel in fear. With a fierce determination, he unleashed his first technique, a swirling vortex of dark energy surrounding the monsters. As he emerged from the vortex, he plunged his sword into the ground, a smirk on his face as he unleashed a devastating attack. The monsters were caught in the vortex, their forms disintegrating into countless pieces. Pleased with the efficiency of his new technique, he continued onward, his senses alerting him to danger. Spotting a massive snake coiled around a tree, he felt a rush of excitement. As it lunged at him, he calmly executed a simple sword technique, slicing the creature in half with ease. Next, he faced a colossal golem that threw a punch in his direction. He dodged and leaped toward its head, channeling his power. With a fierce shout, he struck the golem, sending its head flying from its body. Looking down, he noticed more monsters gathering on the ground, and a smirk returned to his face. He felt confident, though he worried about the condition of his sword after such intense battles. As he began to free fall, he prepared for another attack. He called upon a powerful technique, plummeting like a meteorite and causing a massive explosion that obliterated the monsters below. After the dust settled, he examined his sword, now broken and dull. With a resigned sigh, he continued his journey, eventually arriving at an ancient temple that seemed to be the heart of the island. Peering into a deep hole nearby, he decided to jump in, curious about what lay beneath. The hole was deep and seemingly endless, and he felt a sense of anticipation for what awaited him below. After 10 minutes of falling, Izuku finally spotted the ground and landed with a thud. He noticed a massive door and opened it to reveal a figure seated on a throne, a sword resting beside him. The mysterious knight appeared as if he had been waiting for Izuku. The knight remained silent, his presence commanding. Izuku thought to himself that he had finally found someone worthy of his time. He found the knight's overwhelming presence intriguing and decided to ask again who he was. The knight introduced himself as nothing more than an ancient warrior who had lived beyond what the gate intended. He explained that his name was merely a remnant of the past, but he would share it nonetheless. With white hair, pale skin, and glowing red eyes, he looked directly at Izuku and declared himself 𝐒𝐮𝐬, the blood-red commander. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 then inquired about Izuku's name. Izuku responded, introducing himself as Izuku midoryia and expressing pleasure in meeting 𝐒𝐮𝐬. Curious, Izuku asked about the island they were on. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 explained that it was known as the land of the forgotten, the land of the erased. He elaborated that it was more commonly referred to as the Valley of Scream, once the domain of the goddess of death, now sunken to the depths of the sea due to a treacherous act. As 𝐒𝐮𝐬 spoke, he released an aura of bloodlust that caused the entire island to tremble. Izuku felt the pressure but managed to resist it. He reflected that 𝐒𝐮𝐬's bloodlust was formidable, recalling how he would have struggled against it 3 years ago. A smirk crossed Izuku's face as he sensed a dangerous aura emanating from another door. He inquired about what lay behind it. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 revealed that within that room rested the cursed sword forged by the goddess of death herself, the very weapon she had wielded. Many had attempted to claim it, including the highest of gods, but all had failed, as 𝐒𝐮𝐬 had defeated them. Izuku grinned, intrigued by the notion of 𝐒𝐮𝐬 having slain gods. He surveyed the throne room, noting the remnants of past battles, corpses and bones scattered about, which only fueled his excitement. He thought to himself that perhaps 𝐒𝐮𝐬 could be of use to him. 𝐒𝐮𝐬, sensing the aura of death surrounding Izuku, began to wonder if he might be worthy of the queen's sword. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 pointed his sword at Izuku, preparing to test him. However, Izuku interrupted by releasing his own bloodlust, causing 𝐒𝐮𝐬's eyes to widen in surprise before he smirked in response. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 realized that Izuku possessed an overwhelming bloodlust, possibly indicating that he was the one he had been searching for. Izuku challenged 𝐒𝐮𝐬 to come at him with the intent to kill. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 regarded Izuku with a chilling gaze, one that could send shivers down anyone's spine. Izuku noted that while he was being tested, 𝐒𝐮𝐬 was also under scrutiny. He questioned what made 𝐒𝐮𝐬 think he had the right to test him, given his own unique qualities. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 smirked, acknowledging Izuku's point and putting on his helmet. As they both released their auras, the air around them crackled with tension. Izuku proposed they begin their duel, and 𝐒𝐮𝐬 agreed, eager to see if Izuku was worthy. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 swung his sword at Izuku, who responded with a punch, their attacks colliding. The force sent Izuku sliding back slightly, but 𝐒𝐮𝐬 quickly closed the distance. Izuku realized 𝐒𝐮𝐬 was incredibly fast. He barely managed to block a slash aimed at him, the impact propelling him against a wall. He landed on the wall, striking a pose reminiscent of Naruto, and smirked, impressed. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 charged at Izuku again, swinging his sword at blinding speeds. Izuku dodged the attack, his eyes widening in surprise. Seizing the opportunity, he grabbed 𝐒𝐮𝐬's sword and pulled him forward, delivering a punch to 𝐒𝐮𝐬's stomach that sent him crashing into a wall. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 acknowledged Izuku's strength, recognizing him as a formidable opponent. As he turned, he found Izuku ready to strike again. They exchanged blows, each countering the other's attacks, both sliding back from the force of their clash. 𝐒𝐮𝐬's sword became enveloped in lightning as Izuku smirked, intrigued by the spectacle. He thought to himself that it was quite interesting. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 announced his technique, the first of the lightning arts, and unleashed a dark lightning slash toward Izuku. With quick reflexes, Izuku dodged, sensing 𝐒𝐮𝐬's presence behind him just in time to evade a strike aimed at his neck. 𝐒𝐮𝐬's sword made contact, but to his astonishment, it did not penetrate. 𝐒𝐮𝐬's eyes widened in disbelief, realizing his sword was ineffective. Izuku, with a confident grin, explained that the reason was simple. In a swift motion, he kicked 𝐒𝐮𝐬's sword from his hand and took a fighting stance reminiscent of a legendary warrior. He declared that he was built differently and challenged 𝐒𝐮𝐬 to a hand-to-hand fight, dismissing the weapons. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 smirked beneath his helmet, tossing aside his armaments and adopting a fighting stance of his own, ready for the challenge. The two warriors stood in silence for a moment, assessing each other. Then, in an instant, they vanished, engaging in a flurry of clashes at incredible speeds. Izuku was exhilarated, recognizing 𝐒𝐮𝐬's skill and feeling a rush of excitement. He thought that this was the kind of opponent he needed by his side. 𝐒𝐮𝐬, too, felt a thrill, recalling the last time he had such an exhilarating match. After a long time, Izuku was finally enjoying a fight again, something he hadn't experienced in a while. The only opponents he had truly relished battling were his brother Kai, his father, and his older sister Victoria. As the fight progressed, Izuku increased his speed, and 𝐒𝐮𝐬 matched him with impressive agility. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 then summoned his sword using his ruler's authority, launching a series of rapid slashes at Izuku, who began to take the battle seriously. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 acknowledged that the fun was over and commended Izuku for his performance. Time seemed to slow as Izuku dodged 𝐒𝐮𝐬's slashes with remarkable agility and precision. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 was taken aback, shocked to see Izuku unscathed. He questioned how Izuku had managed to evade his attacks. Izuku, with a glint of power in his eyes, dismissed the effort, noting a small cut on his cheek and expressing surprise that it had only resulted in a drop of blood. In a burst of speed, he dashed toward a fallen warrior, retrieving a sword. As 𝐒𝐮𝐬 charged at him, Izuku appeared behind him in an instant, ready to unleash a powerful technique. With a swift motion, he executed the seventh form of his death arts, the Abyss Devourer. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 found himself struck from all angles, his eyes widening in shock as he struggled to react to Izuku's speed. Despite the onslaught, 𝐒𝐮𝐬 managed to stand, smirking as he revealed that it had been a long time since he had been injured in battle. He summoned his great sword, which crackled with lightning, its form shifting dramatically. As shadows enveloped 𝐒𝐮𝐬, he declared that it had been a while since anyone had pushed him to this extent. He transformed into a shadowy figure, a sight that excited Izuku, who sensed the deadly aura radiating from 𝐒𝐮𝐬. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 warned Izuku that this was his full power and challenged him to survive, noting that few had witnessed this form and none had lived to tell the tale. Imagining his sword transformed into the legendary Demon King's long sword, Izuku took the sheath he had acquired and began to sharpen it, a confident smirk on his face. He remarked that this was 𝐒𝐮𝐬 at full strength and promised to reveal a fraction of his own power. As Izuku's eyes changed, he entered a heightened state, and the pressure around him intensified, creating a dense atmosphere that sent chills down 𝐒𝐮𝐬's spine. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 realized that the aura surrounding Izuku felt like death itself, recognizing the true monster hidden within the boy's human form. Izuku declared that he was ready to elevate the battle, signaling that the fight was about to reach new heights. Izuku expressed his determination to raise the stakes, preparing for the challenge ahead. He took a firm stance, gripping the sword and sheath he held, ready to face 𝐒𝐮𝐬. He urged 𝐒𝐮𝐬 to demonstrate how he earned the title of God Killer. The scene shifted to Aki, who had just woken up in bed, reflecting on his recent encounters. As the girls around him stirred, he discreetly compensated them before they departed. Aki smirked to himself, recalling how these girls had outlasted others he had been with recently. He pondered the past 3 years, recognizing his own growth and strength, but he was acutely aware that both Kai and his father had likely become stronger as well, especially Izuku. The memory of the brutal encounter with Izuku 3 years prior haunted him. Aki remembered the fear and despair he felt, realizing that Izuku had shown him true terror even when he had not been at his full potential. Aki acknowledged the danger Izuku posed, knowing that while he might stand a chance against Kai and his father, facing Izuku would be a guaranteed loss. The scars on his body served as reminders of that fateful day, some still unhealed. Determined to grow stronger, Aki resolved to prepare for their inevitable confrontation. He regretted the death of 𝐒𝐮𝐬, recognizing that her demise had awakened a relentless monster seeking revenge. Aki's eyes glinted with determination as he vowed to become powerful enough to confront Izuku and claim victory. The scene transitioned to the midoryia mansion, where Inko and Izuku's other mothers gathered with Hisashi, Kai, Alice, and Victoria, along with Kai's other girlfriends, Lady Nagant and Chisato. Inko inquired about their work, and Victoria reported success in capturing individuals associated with the League of Apocalypse. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 shared that the recent changes in leadership had reduced corruption within the Hero Association, which pleased Inko. Chisato mentioned the challenges posed by the Union, prompting laughter from Mika and Hana, who hoped Kai was treating the girls well. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 assured Hana that they were being treated like queens. Curiosity arose when Chisato asked about a girl in a picture displayed in the main hall, leading to a moment of silence among the midoryia family. Hisashi pointed out that Kai had not informed his girlfriends about the girl in the picture. Kai sheepishly admitted he had forgotten, prompting a light-hearted response from Alice, who took the opportunity to explain the tragic story of 𝐒𝐮𝐬, revealing that she had been Aki's victim 3 years ago. The revelation shocked everyone, and Alice recounted how Aki had killed 𝐒𝐮𝐬 out of jealousy toward Izuku. The group expressed their disgust toward Aki, hoping for Izuku to take revenge. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 mentioned that although they had not met Izuku, they had heard many tales of his prowess, known as the Heavenly Demon and a force of fear. Chisato echoed the sentiment, recounting how people spoke of the dread that followed him. Kai added that Izuku's battles crushed hope and instilled despair, likening the experience to facing death itself. Alice proudly declared that their little brother was a formidable force, capable of ending not just fights but everything in his path. They all shared a hope to meet him one day. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 asked about Izuku's whereabouts, and Kai revealed that he was currently on a trip, likely enjoying himself. Meanwhile, Izuku and 𝐒𝐮𝐬 clashed at incredible speeds, each testing the other's limits. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 noted that even in his shadow form, Izuku was keeping pace and seemed to be holding back. Izuku found 𝐒𝐮𝐬's strength and speed impressive, intrigued by his abilities. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 marveled at Izuku's skill in both hand-to-hand combat and swordsmanship, wondering just what this formidable opponent was capable of. Izuku caught 𝐒𝐻𝐻's sword and executed a spinning kick, striking 𝐒𝐻𝐻 in the face. Despite the pain, 𝐒𝐻𝐻 managed to flip Izuku over, catching him off guard. Izuku's eyes widened in surprise. He thought to himself, realizing he was about to be interrupted. 𝐒𝐻𝐻 unleashed his signature combo, but to his astonishment, Izuku blocked all his punches while upside down, his eyes widening further. 𝐒𝐻𝐻 landed a blow, sending Izuku crashing into a wall. Breathing heavily, 𝐒𝐻𝐻 was still stunned that Izuku had managed to block his punches in such an unusual position, something no one had done before. He wondered how Izuku could have blocked his punches like that. It seemed impossible. This kid was truly exceptional. Suddenly, the smoke cleared, and 𝐒𝐻𝐻 looked in the direction he had sent Izuku flying, but he couldn't see him. Izuku appeared right in front of 𝐒𝐻𝐻, grabbing his face and slamming him to the ground. 𝐒𝐻𝐻 coughed, shocked by Izuku's incredible speed. 𝐒𝐻𝐻 was taken aback, unable to comprehend how fast Izuku was. Izuku thought about how, if he hadn't blocked in time, 𝐒𝐻𝐻 would have landed a devastating combo. He couldn't allow that to happen. Using Aikido, Izuku flipped 𝐒𝐻𝐻 into the air before 𝐒𝐻𝐻 could react. 𝐒𝐻𝐻 launched a kick, striking Izuku in the face, but Izuku absorbed the blow without flinching. Izuku challenged 𝐒𝐻𝐻, stating he would show him how it felt to receive his own combo. He perfectly mimicked 𝐒𝐻𝐻's combo, hitting him with greater speed and strength, sending 𝐒𝐻𝐻 crashing into a wall. Before 𝐒𝐻𝐻 could recover, Izuku appeared in front of him again, grabbing his arm and launching him into the air. Izuku declared he would end the fight with this attack, telling 𝐒𝐻𝐻 to rest well, warrior. He unleashed a flurry of strikes and martial arts techniques, while 𝐒𝐻𝐻 struggled to block the rapid attacks. Izuku called out his technique, midoryia style, Abyss Instinct Barrage, repeating it as he continued his assault. 𝐒𝐻𝐻 realized he had lost and acknowledged Izuku's worthiness to wield the sword. As 𝐒𝐻𝐻 was sent flying, Izuku positioned himself for his final attack to conclude the battle. He announced, midoryia style, 1-inch killer punch, and executed the move, knocking 𝐒𝐻𝐻 out cold. 𝐒𝐻𝐻 returned to his base form, looking battered, while Izuku wore a small smile. Looking down at 𝐒𝐻𝐻, Izuku's eyes returned to normal. He acknowledged 𝐒𝐻𝐻's strength, noting that he had faced someone far superior in power and strength. Izuku recognized 𝐒𝐻𝐻's resilience, as he had managed to land some blows during the fight. With a slight smile, Izuku began walking toward the room where the goddess of death's sword was located, sensing a deadly aura emanating from it. He encouraged 𝐒𝐻𝐻 to stand proud, acknowledging his strength. Upon entering the room, Izuku found himself in a pitch-black void. He exclaimed in confusion, questioning where he was. Sensing an overwhelming aura, he turned to see someone seated on a throne, glaring at the mysterious figure. Izuku demanded to know who they were. The figure responded, expressing admiration for the look in Izuku's eyes, likening him to someone else. Izuku's expression remained cold as ice, and his eyes began to glow purple. He reiterated his question, demanding to know who the figure was and why he was there. The figure stepped down from the throne, appearing right behind Izuku and placing a hand on his shoulder. Izuku was startled, realizing her speed was incredible, though not faster than his own. The figure reassured him, stating there was no need to be hostile and that she only wanted to talk. She stepped back and returned to her seat. Izuku inquired about the purpose of their conversation. The figure revealed there were many things to discuss. She attempted to look into Izuku's body using one of her abilities but was shocked to find only his black heart. A mysterious figure observed the boy before her, noting the absence of mana or any discernible quirk. Yet, she sensed something profound within him, a soul larger than his physical form, shrouded in darkness. She questioned him about the nature of his dark soul and the blackness of his heart. The boy, Izuku, found her words perplexing. He was taken aback by her assertion, feeling the weight of her gaze upon him. She continued, expressing her curiosity about his soul's depth and the aura of death that surrounded him. The figure, intrigued by his resilience, proposed a deal. If he shared his secret, she would reveal anything he wished to know. Izuku considered the offer, agreeing to it, albeit with some hesitation. With a wave of her hand, a chair materialized, but Izuku opted to stand. The figure, undeterred, insisted he sit, her aura shifting as she exerted her presence. Izuku felt the intensity of her power, realizing he was in the presence of someone formidable. She acknowledged his tenacity, but her patience was wearing thin. When he refused to comply, she commanded him to kneel. Izuku's spirit ignited with defiance. He was a midoryia, and kneeling was not in his nature. He resolved to assert himself and show her the strength he possessed. With a determined stomp, he shook the very void around them, unleashing his own aura and bloodlust. The figure's expression shifted from confidence to shock as she felt the weight of his power. Izuku declared his authority, demanding she recognize her place. As the tension hung in the air, he ceased his display of strength, observing her heavy breaths. He sensed that continuing would overwhelm her. Time was of the essence, and he pressed her for answers about her identity. She attempted to speak but was interrupted as Izuku turned away, expressing his longing to return to his quest for the sword mentioned by 𝐒𝐻𝐬. He sensed her reluctance to reveal herself, yet he could feel no malice in her intentions. Finally, she sighed, conceding that her name was not one he had earned the right to know. However, she acknowledged his resemblance to someone significant and introduced herself as Hela, the firstborn of Odin, commander of the Asgardian Legion, and the goddess of death. Izuku found this revelation satisfactory and introduced himself in turn. Hela recognized the familiar aura he carried, realizing he was the son of Hisashi. Curiosity piqued, Izuku inquired about the island they were on. Hela explained that it was the Valley of Screams, her domain until she was imprisoned by the gods, specifically Zeus and Odin, after a conflict involving his father. She recounted how, following his father's triumph over the gods, they sought revenge, leading to her imprisonment alongside her siblings. Izuku listened intently, absorbing the weight of her words and the history that intertwined their fates. Izuku felt a deep sense of sympathy for Hela, recognizing the pain she had endured at the hands of her father and the other gods. She expressed her longing for revenge but lamented her lack of power, feeling trapped within her own domain. Izuku approached her, wrapping his arms around her in a comforting embrace. Hela's eyes widened in surprise, as no one had ever shown her such kindness before. He encouraged her to release her emotions, assuring her that he was there for her. As she let her tears flow, Izuku offered her solace, and after a long hour of crying, she finally smiled for the first time, which brought a small smile to his face as well. Hela expressed her gratitude to Izuku, who promised to seek revenge on her behalf, swearing on his name as midoryia. She was taken aback by his willingness to fight for her, feeling a warmth in her heart at being treated differently for the first time. Curious, Izuku asked how she would compare her strength to that of the gods. Hela explained that, in his current state, he could certainly defeat them, but their immortality and divine bodies would pose a significant challenge. Izuku contemplated the situation, realizing he would be facing foes who relied on their immortality as a shield. He believed that if he could break through that barrier, they would make mistakes, and he would seize the opportunity to defeat them, embracing his role as the predator ready to begin the hunt. Hela smirked at his determination, acknowledging his sharp battle instincts. She suggested considering a backup plan, prompting Izuku to ask for an explanation. With a snap of her fingers, they returned to the throne room, where 𝐒𝐻𝐬 was kneeling. Hela greeted her trusted ally, thanking him for his loyalty despite the delays in his fate. She then walked toward her room, glancing back at Izuku and inviting him to follow. Curious about her backup plan, he inquired about it. Hela revealed that she would provide him with a weapon to help him combat the immortality of their enemies. Upon entering the room, Izuku saw a sword embedded in a stone, radiating a formidable aura. He asked about the sword, and Hela introduced it as 𝐒𝐮𝐬, a weapon she had forged herself. It was designed to negate all forms of magic and quirks, a cursed sword capable of cutting through anything. She explained that any wounds inflicted by 𝐒𝐮𝐬 would be permanent and would not heal. Izuku grinned at the prospect of such a powerful weapon. Hela acknowledged his strength but insisted on training him, sharing her knowledge to help him become the true embodiment of death. She believed in his limitless potential and the absence of any boundaries to his strength. With determination, Izuku reached for the sword, feeling its immense weight pull him down to one knee. 𝐼𝐬 cautioned him about the sword's picky nature, but he was already overwhelmed by the challenge it presented. As he struggled, he realized the sword was draining his life force. 𝐼𝐬 encouraged him to survive this trial, as it was the key to his training. Izuku unleashed his aura, glaring at the sword, declaring that it was his energy that would prevail. He focused his strength, gripping the sword tightly and asserting his will over it. The sheath began to crack under his grip as he warned the sword to follow his lead or face destruction. In response, the sword began to return the life energy it had drained, and Izuku felt his strength surge, his veins glowing with a purple hue. He sheathed the sword, feeling a sense of accomplishment as 𝐼𝐬 congratulated him on passing the trial. 𝐼𝐻𝐬 had accepted him as its new 𝐼𝐻𝐻𝐬. 𝐼𝐬 asked if he would be able to handle the sword, and Izuku smirked confidently, assuring her that they would be just fine together. As he looked at his hand, he noticed a strange symbol had appeared, indicating that 𝐼𝐻𝐬 had recognized him as its new 𝐼𝐻𝐻𝐬. 𝐼𝐬 explained that the symbol indicated 𝐼𝐻𝐬 had accepted Izuku as its new 𝐼𝐻𝐻𝐬. Izuku contemplated this revelation and acknowledged it. 𝐼𝐬 then proposed that they start his training. Before they began, Izuku noted that he had been on the island for 3 weeks. 𝐼𝐬 informed him that time flowed differently there. While he had experienced 3 weeks, 3 months had passed outside. 𝐼𝐬 trained Izuku, helping him grow stronger and teaching him various sword techniques. She guided him in creating new death arts. During this time, Izuku unlocked additional abilities on his path. His first ability was limitless copying, and the second was future sight, allowing him to perceive the strike paths of his enemies and understand their deepest intentions. This insight enabled him to anticipate when opponents would attack, breaking through their defenses. His movements became instinctual, akin to ultra instinct. As Izuku trained, his aura grew denser and stronger, surpassing human limits. 𝐼𝐬 shared all her knowledge with him, and eventually, Izuku completed his training. 𝐼𝐬 announced that she had taught him everything she knew and had nothing left to impart. As her body began to dissolve into green particles, Izuku looked at her, realizing her time was running out. 𝐼𝐬 explained that she hadn't wanted to worry him and that there was nothing he could do to change her fate. In a moment of farewell, Izuku embraced her one last time, expressing his gratitude for everything she had done. 𝐼𝐬 thanked him in return and shared a tender moment, their connection deepening. After a heartfelt goodbye, she vanished completely. Izuku bowed slightly, a smile on his face as he vowed never to forget her and promised to seek revenge in her honor. He wished for her soul to find the peace it deserved. Upon noticing new clothes that 𝐼𝐬 had made for him, he found a small note that read she hoped they would fit. After taking a quick bath, he donned the outfit and admired his reflection in the mirror, appreciating 𝐼𝐬's craftsmanship. Exiting 𝐼𝐬's chamber, he encountered 𝐒𝐻𝐬, who acknowledged her absence. Izuku confirmed that she was gone and inquired about 𝐒𝐻𝐬's next steps. 𝐒𝐻𝐬 knelt before him, offering his sword and loyalty. Izuku was surprised that 𝐒𝐻𝐬 still wished to serve him, despite the circumstances surrounding 𝐼𝐬's fate. 𝐒𝐻𝐬 clarified that Izuku had freed her from her burdens, allowing her to smile genuinely for the first time in years. 𝐒𝐻𝐬 expressed his longing to walk alongside Izuku, believing 𝐼𝐬 would have wanted this as well. With a respectful bow, 𝐒𝐻𝐬 reiterated his request to be Izuku's blade, pledging to eliminate anyone who stood in his way. Izuku recognized the loyalty in 𝐒𝐻𝐬's eyes and smiled slightly, accepting his offer. He addressed 𝐒𝐻𝐬 as Knight Commander, instructing him to prepare for their upcoming challenges. 𝐒𝐻𝐬 expressed his happiness to serve and went to freshen up, returning shortly after. Ready to depart, they left the island on a ship that 𝐼𝐬 had magically created for them. As they sailed away, 𝐒𝐻𝐬 asked about the fate of the island. Izuku declared that the island was more a prison than a domain of the goddess of death, and he intended to erase it from existence. Izuku reflected on the painful memories that haunted him, understanding their connection to her suffering. 𝐒𝐻𝐬 nodded in agreement, and Izuku extended his hand, summoning 𝐒𝐻𝐬. He sheathed his sword and prepared to unleash one of his death arts, leaping into the air and exhaling a chilling breath. With determination, he executed his attack, the second form of his death arts, known as the Abyssal Slash. The strike collided with the island, resulting in a massive explosion. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 watched in astonishment as the devastation unfolded before him, realizing the island had been obliterated by a single blow. He questioned the choice he had made in following such a powerful emissary. Izuku landed back on the ship, spreading his senses to assess their surroundings before turning to 𝐒𝐮𝐬. He informed him that they were currently in Korea, with Incheon being the nearest destination. Izuku instructed 𝐒𝐮𝐬 to set sail for Incheon, and 𝐒𝐮𝐬 dutifully acknowledged his command. Izuku reflected on his training with Hela, recognizing how her guidance had elevated his strength and allowed him to develop new forms of death arts. He had shattered his previous limits, transcending the boundaries of humanity to embody death itself. Curious about the current state of the world, Izuku asked 𝐒𝐮𝐬 if he was aware of the ongoing events. While 𝐒𝐮𝐬 had some knowledge, he admitted there were still many things he needed to learn. Izuku decided to explain the situation as they traveled, ensuring 𝐒𝐮𝐬 gained a clearer understanding of the world around them. As they sailed, Izuku contemplated how much had changed since he last saw his friends. He reached into his pockets, retrieving a cigarette and lighting it with a lighter gifted to him by his grandfather. He took a moment to enjoy the cool breeze, pondering the ongoing war in Incheon. Rumors suggested that the region was embroiled in conflict between the Dark Crocodile Society and Speed, both vying for control. Izuku considered joining the fray, but only if it meant supporting peace and the happiness of the people. He declared that Incheon was about to welcome him, and he was ready to make his presence known. As the scene shifted, Izuku gazed at a chain that Cha had given him, a small, sad smile gracing his lips. He missed her deeply and regretted not being able to save her, hoping her soul had found peace. Taking out his phone, he revealed a wallpaper of the two of them, capturing a moment of affection. He vowed to avenge her, promising that he would ensure her tormentor faced justice. After kissing the chain, he left his room, where he found 𝐒𝐮𝐬 training with his sword. Izuku acknowledged 𝐒𝐮𝐬's dedication to becoming stronger, noting that their previous battle had highlighted the distance he still had to cover. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 agreed, expressing his longing to improve. Izuku offered to teach him some of his techniques and martial arts, and 𝐒𝐮𝐬 humbly accepted the opportunity. As they trained together, sharing their skills and fighting styles, they eventually arrived at the docks of Incheon. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 announced their arrival, and Izuku suggested they change before disembarking. Grateful for the credit card he always carried and relieved that he hadn't lost his bag of clothes on the remote island, he and 𝐒𝐮𝐬 prepared to step onto the shore, ready to face whatever awaited them. Izuku instructed 𝐒𝐮𝐬 to destroy the ship, stating they would no longer need it. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 complied, using his ruler's authority to compress the ship into a small ball. As they entered Incheon, they stood before a welcoming board, taking in the sight of broken buildings and damaged shops. The city resembled a place that had suffered a catastrophic event. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 remarked that it looked as if a bomb had been dropped, acknowledging the chaotic state of the city. Izuku agreed, noting that the rumors of war in the area seemed to hold truth. They noticed a warning sign on a pole, cautioning that someone could choke a person without warning. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 expressed confusion over the strange warning, while Izuku, unfazed, suggested they find a restaurant since he was quite hungry. 𝐒𝐮𝐬, now sporting a new short hairstyle, agreed to accompany his king. They soon found a restaurant and settled down to eat. Izuku requested more food from the waitress, who acknowledged his order. She observed their expensive clothing and wondered what two people like them were doing in Incheon. After finishing their meal, 𝐒𝐮𝐬 inquired about their next steps. Izuku contemplated seeking out the kings of Incheon, specifically mentioning 𝐒𝐮𝐬 and 𝐸𝐺, hoping to form alliances with them, particularly with 𝐸𝐺, who was rumored to have elite fighters. The waitress listened quietly, curious about their intentions. Izuku expressed his hope that the kings would prove strong enough to alleviate his boredom. Once they finished eating, they approached the counter to settle their bill. Izuku asked how much they owed, and the waitress cheerfully informed him it was 80,000 won. Both men were taken aback by the price. Izuku, incredulous, asked her to repeat the amount. She confirmed it was indeed 80,000 won. He thought to himself that while he could afford it, he refused to pay such a high price for a simple meal. The waitress insisted that the extra food they ordered brought the total to 85,000 won. Izuku felt frustration rising, suspecting she was trying to scam them. When she threatened to call the police, Izuku encouraged her to do so. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 sensed his king's growing anger and felt that the waitress was attempting to take advantage of them. Suddenly, a biker with a helmet approached, suggesting that charging such a high price would deter visitors. He urged the waitress to treat customers fairly, or risk losing business. Both Izuku and 𝐒𝐮𝐬 were relieved to hear a voice of reason. The biker felt their intense gaze upon him, as if they were scrutinizing him closely. He apologized on behalf of Inchan, and Izuku assured him it was no problem, having no intention of giving the waitress any money. The waitress protested loudly, but 𝐒𝐮𝐬 silenced her with a stern tone, causing both her and the biker to feel uneasy. The biker, feeling embarrassed, asked them not to judge Inchan too harshly. Izuku agreed, and the biker then complimented their appearance, suggesting they looked like supermodels. Izuku, slightly surprised, thought to himself about their looks, unaware of the impact they had on others. He introduced himself and 𝐒𝐮𝐬, mentioning they were from Japan and had come to meet 𝐒𝐮𝐬 and 𝐸𝐺, hoping to form alliances due to the strength of their fighters. Izuku felt a sense of boredom as he contemplated the idea of testing his strength against the fighters around him, curious if there was something worthy of conquering. The biker inquired about 𝐒𝐮𝐬 and 𝐸𝐺, revealing that he knew where 𝐒𝐮 was located. Izuku, intrigued, asked if the biker could lead them there, to which the biker agreed, inviting Izuku to follow. As they prepared to leave, the biker abruptly snatched Izuku's bag, leaving him momentarily stunned. 𝐒𝐮𝐬, observing the situation, nodded to Izuku and began to move stealthily in pursuit of the thief. Izuku felt a thrill at the prospect of making a grand entrance. The biker, now on a call, discussed his plans with a partner. They mentioned a tip they received about 𝐸𝐺 and how they had successfully dealt with their targets, now heading to meet up with others. Upon arriving at their hideout, the biker engaged with his companions, questioning the nature of Izuku and 𝐒𝐮𝐬. They expressed skepticism about the alliance with 𝐸𝐺, but praised the biker for his success. They then opened a suitcase, revealing Izuku and 𝐒𝐮𝐬's belongings, which caused excitement among them. Suddenly, an intense and chilling presence enveloped the room, rendering the thieves unable to move. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 emerged from the shadows in his knight form, towering over the thieves, who fell to their knees, overwhelmed by his aura. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 addressed the biker, accusing him of boldness for stealing from the king. The thieves trembled, struggling to comprehend the situation. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 noted their resilience, impressed that they remained conscious in his presence. As 𝐒𝐮𝐬 opened his cape, a portal formed, and Izuku stepped through, making a striking entrance. The atmosphere grew heavier, causing the thieves to breathe heavily as they sensed the overwhelming power radiating from Izuku. They felt a wave of fear wash over them, realizing they had underestimated their adversaries. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 reverted to his human form, while Izuku surveyed the thieves, hands in his pockets, exuding an air of authority. Izuku questioned their identities, noticing their laboured breathing. He decided to ease the pressure of his aura, allowing them to stand and regain their composure. He reiterated his inquiry, prompting one of the thieves to suggest that they should be the ones asking questions. Izuku dismissed their concerns, stating that it was merely a hobby of his. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 warned them that their insolence could lead to dire consequences. Suddenly, the biker charged at Izuku with incredible speed, launching a kick that Izuku effortlessly blocked with a single finger. Impressed, Izuku acknowledged the biker's skill and prepared to counterattack. As Izuku unleashed a punch, the biker parried the blow, sparking Izuku's interest. Izuku noted the biker's quick thinking and adaptability. The biker retaliated with a swift kick aimed at Izuku's face, but Izuku easily deflected it, challenging the biker to give his all. Izuku then used the momentum from the biker's attack to execute a rapid spinning kick, grazing the biker's helmet. Smoke enveloped the area, and as it cleared, Izuku noticed someone blocking his kick, despite the person appearing to be drenched in sweat. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 observed the scene, intrigued by the unexpected defense. Izuku acknowledged the skill of his opponent, noting that they were not bad at all. The mysterious figure felt as if their bones might shatter from the impact of the kick and questioned who Izuku was. As Izuku looked at the biker, the helmet cracked open, revealing a face that left both him and 𝐒𝐻 in shock. Izuku expressed disbelief at the revelation, while 𝐒𝐻 confirmed that it was indeed real. Izuku was taken aback, realizing he had almost ended the career of this formidable woman. She unzipped her jacket slightly, locking eyes with Izuku, and declared her intent to face him, stating she would use everything she had against the enemy. Suddenly, a newcomer interrupted the tense moment. Izuku turned to see a man with blonde hair, dressed in a white shirt and blue jeans, adorned with multiple chains and a BMW car key on his belt. The man introduced himself as 𝐒𝐮𝐬 and acknowledged Izuku midoryia, expressing familiarity with his reputation as the strongest prodigy of their generation, known as the Heavenly Demon. 𝐒𝐮𝐬's gang members were visibly surprised by this revelation. He explained that there had been a misunderstanding and introduced his gang, the Speed Circle, expressing their honor in meeting Izuku. Izuku considered the name, amused by the appearance of one of the gang members, whose hairstyle left much to be desired. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 introduced the members, Sebastian Kong in a green jacket and Baknam Lee in a blue jacket, ranking as speed number 5 and number 4, respectively. He also mentioned Yeowol Ha, the woman he had just fought, as his little sister and speed no. Izuku reiterated his name and introduced 𝐒𝐻 as his bodyguard. 𝐒𝐻 acknowledged the introduction with respect. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 contemplated the potential alliance with the midoryia clan, realizing that having Izuku as an ally could help end the ongoing conflict and restore peace to Incheon. He sensed the importance of keeping Izuku content and noted the strange error when trying to assess his status, realizing the immense power Izuku possessed. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 attempted to check Izuku's status again, but the system continued to glitch, indicating that Izuku's strength was beyond comprehension. Yeowol cautioned 𝐒𝐮𝐬, suggesting that they were the enemy. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 sought clarification, and Yeowol explained that she overheard Izuku discussing an alliance with 𝐒𝐮. Izuku confirmed his intentions to meet with them and discuss an alliance, expressing his longing to engage with strong fighters and perhaps conquer something along the way. He expressed disappointment at the notion of scamming outsiders, stating he would rather join forces with 𝐒𝐮 than associate with thieves. As he glanced back at the Speed Gang, he felt a wave of bloodlust emanating from them, their cold glares sending a chill down his spine. Izuku noticed the intense glare in 𝐒𝐮's eyes as he approached, standing before him despite being shorter. 𝐒𝐮 questioned Izuku's decision to ally with 𝐒𝐮, expressing disbelief. Izuku replied that he didn't associate with scammers, but before he could finish, he launched a punch at 𝐒𝐮. 𝐒𝐮 managed to block it but was pushed back. Speed prepared to charge at Izuku, but 𝐒𝐻 stepped in front of them, sword pointed toward the two. He reassured them that their leader was fine, explaining that 𝐒𝐮 was merely testing Izuku. 𝐒𝐮 instructed everyone to stand down, contemplating the power he was up against. He decided to give it his all. With a nod from his followers, he rushed at Izuku, employing the overturning void technique to deliver a powerful kick. Izuku blocked the attack, impressed by the strength behind it. As 𝐒𝐮 unleashed a flurry of kicks, Izuku parried each one effortlessly before landing a punch that sent 𝐒𝐮 staggering. Coughing, 𝐒𝐮 retaliated with the overturning void technique again, but Izuku caught his leg and slammed him to the ground, following up with another punch that caused 𝐒𝐮 to cough up more blood. Izuku challenged 𝐒𝐮, demanding more from him. 𝐒𝐮 felt the weight of Izuku's strikes, his bones aching from the force. Observers were taken aback, having never seen 𝐒𝐮 overwhelmed like this before. Despite 𝐒𝐮's attempts to use the overturning void technique for further attacks, Izuku countered every move. Eventually, 𝐒𝐮, out of breath, acknowledged the end of the test, admitting that he was impressed by Izuku's strength. He revealed the name of his technique, which he had inherited from the previous king of Incheon. Izuku analyzed the technique, recognizing its ability to redirect an opponent's force while adding speed to create a powerful impact. Everyone was astonished by his keen observation skills. Yeowol thought that Izuku might be the one to help her defeat their enemies. Izuku inquired if anyone else in 𝐒𝐮's gang could use the technique, to which 𝐤𝐬 replied that only 𝐒𝐬 could, although she hadn't mstread it yet. He then explained that 𝐒𝐬 possessed a quirk, arrow manipulation, a blend of wind and water elements. 𝐤𝐬 made a heartfelt request, bowing slightly to Izuku, asking him to save Speed and Inchon. However, Izuku expressed his distrust, stating that he needed proof that they were genuinely good and sought peace. He refused to ally with those he believed were scammers. 𝐒𝐬 defended their integrity, insisting they weren't responsible for the actions taken against the citizens. 𝐤𝐬 urged her to stop, acknowledging that Izuku had reason to be suspicious. He then offered to stake his claim on Inchon as a show of good faith. As Izuku and 𝐼𝐻 followed Speed through the town, Izuku observed the devastation surrounding them. 𝐤𝐬 explained that the internal war had driven many away, leaving those who remained filled with anger. Izuku noted that the people must harbor resentment towards 𝐤𝐬. However, as they walked, they witnessed the townspeople welcoming Speed, which puzzled them. 𝐼𝐻 remarked on the surprising reception, having assumed the people despised them. Suddenly, Izuku sensed danger as two figures launched kicks at him from above. He reacted swiftly, countering their attacks with a technique he had perfectly copied from 𝐤𝐬, leaving Speed in shock and disbelief. Speed was on high alert. Izuku felt a surge of confidence, knowing he had caught his opponents off guard. 𝐒𝐬 observed in awe, recognizing that he had executed the overturning void technique flawlessly. She thought that perhaps with his assistance, she could finally avenge her father. Sebastian Kong pondered the nature of this formidable individual. Someone nearby remarked that Izuku's strength surpassed that of 𝐤𝐬. Another person questioned the identity of this powerful figure. 𝐒𝐬 declared that this would serve as a lesson: never attack someone stronger than oneself. One of the onlookers shrugged, claiming they were merely testing him. Izuku asserted that they lacked the qualifications to challenge him, warning them that any further aggression would have severe consequences. The atmosphere grew tense as everyone present felt the weight of Izuku's aura and piercing gaze. 𝐤𝐬 introduced his companions, 𝐼𝐻 and 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦𝐬, apologizing for their earlier actions. 𝐼𝐻 extended his greetings, expressing regret for the attack. 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦𝐬 echoed the apology. 𝐤𝐬 explained that they were part of a group called Speed and warned that members of the Dark Society were approaching. He turned to Izuku and 𝐼𝐻, ready to demonstrate the true power of Speed. With urgency, 𝐤𝐬 shouted for everyone to run. The members of Speed quickly fled, with 𝐤𝐬 pulling 𝐼𝐻 along while 𝐒𝐬 guided Izuku. Both kings and their knights left momentarily stunned. They exchanged glances, both bewildered by the situation. 𝐒𝐬 felt warmth radiating from Izuku's hand and noticed a pleasant sense surrounding him. Izuku found her touch reminiscent of someone from his past, stirring memories. They soon arrived at the Speed base, where Izuku confronted 𝐤𝐬 and his team, seeking clarity about the conflict with the Dark Crocodile Society and any hidden history in Inchon. 𝐤𝐬 recounted the origins of the war and the tragic fate of the previous king at the hands of their enemies. Izuku inquired if this was all that remained of Speed. 𝐤𝐬 admitted that it was just the 6 of them now, teasing that Izuku might be tempted to ally with them. Izuku firmly declined, expressing disbelief at the disparity between what he had heard and the reality before him. 𝐤𝐬 lamented the missed opportunity for an alliance. 𝐼𝐻 noted the significant reduction in Speed's numbers, realizing that 𝐸 must possess exceptionally strong fighters. Izuku posed a critical question: why continue fighting a seemingly unwinnable war? 𝐤𝐬 confessed his reluctance, sharing that no one would willingly face such formidable opponents. He expressed his frustration at being moved into a leadership role, longing for freedom while acknowledging the responsibility he felt toward his comrades. He explained that despite their dwindling numbers, they were determined to stand strong and fight for the people of Inchon, hoping for a day when they would emerge victorious. Izuku and 𝐼𝐻 listened intently, absorbing 𝐤𝐬's heartfelt words. 𝐤𝐬 concluded by admitting that there was no grand reason for their struggle, but he felt it was important to share the truth. Izuku remained contemplative. 𝐤𝐬 pressed, asking if Izuku was now considering an alliance. A small smile crept onto Izuku's face as he looked at the members of Speed. He expressed his longing to form an alliance, believing they could work together effectively. 𝐒𝐬, witnessing Izuku's smile, felt a blush rise to her cheeks, captivated by his charm. The members of Speed rejoiced at Izuku's agreement, celebrating and welcoming him and 𝐒𝐮𝐬 into their fold. Later, 𝐒𝐬 sat outside the base, gazing at the stars when Izuku approached her. He asked if he could join her, to which she replied affirmatively, requesting he call her by her name. Izuku took a seat beside her, both admiring the night sky. He suggested that since they would be collaborating, it would be beneficial to get to know each other better, proposing a few questions. 𝐒𝐬 accepted the offer, intrigued by the prospect of their conversation. Izuku had heard from 𝐒𝐮𝐬 that 𝐒𝐬 sought revenge against the Dark Crocodile Society, and he was curious about her motivations. 𝐒𝐬 remained silent for a moment before revealing the truth. The leader, 𝐒𝐮𝐬, along with 𝐸𝐺 had taken her father's life in a brutal manner. Izuku's eyes widened in shock at her revelation. 𝐒𝐬 expressed her deep longing for vengeance, not only for her father but also for the suffering inflicted upon the people of Incheon. She had dedicated herself to training every day, growing stronger in her quest for justice. Izuku, reflecting on his own loss, shared that he too had experienced the pain of losing someone dear. His first love, 𝐒𝐮𝐬, had been taken from him by his own brother, driven by jealousy. The sadness in his eyes resonated with 𝐒𝐬, reminding her of the grief she felt after her mother's battle with cancer. Izuku spoke of the memories of those he had lost, emphasizing that they should not dwell in sorrow but instead strive to move forward. He had trained relentlessly, surpassing human limits to ensure that no one else would endure the same suffering he had faced. 𝐒𝐬 listened intently, understanding the weight of his words. Izuku offered his support, suggesting they form a partnership to grow stronger together and seek revenge against the Dark Crocodile Society. He believed that by working together, they could restore her father's legacy and put an end to 𝐒𝐮𝐬's reign. Surprised by his proposal, 𝐒𝐬 felt a small smile form on her lips as she agreed to join forces with him. Izuku returned her smile, and an unfamiliar warmth blossomed within her. She sensed a connection between them, one that reminded Izuku of his lost love. As time passed, Izuku and 𝐒𝐬 grew closer. Over the next few months, he became more open with her and the others in their group, including 𝐒𝐮𝐬. 𝐒𝐬, who had always struggled to express her emotions, found herself opening up to Izuku, much to the surprise of their friends. With Izuku and 𝐒𝐮𝐬's guidance, they began to weaken the Dark Crocodile Society's hold on Incheon, reclaiming territories that had been lost. Izuku trained 𝐒𝐬 in swordsmanship and martial arts, helping her master her quirk. She gained strength and confidence, growing taller and more capable under his mentorship. Meanwhile, 𝐒𝐬 began to develop feelings for Izuku, though she was unaware of them. Izuku, too, found himself slowly opening his heart to the possibility of love, though he did not recognize it yet. One morning, 𝐒𝐬 awoke, feeling refreshed after a long time. She wondered how Izuku was doing and if he had risen yet. Standing before the mirror, she admired her progress. Thanks to Izuku's training, she had grown taller, gained muscle, and improved her quirk. She gazed at the picture beside her, a snapshot of herself and her father, a bittersweet smile gracing her lips. 𝐒𝐬 resolved to avenge her father, feeling the weight of her promise. She was determined that 𝐒𝐮𝐬 would pay for his actions. After freshening up, she stepped outside to find 𝐒𝐮𝐬 and Speed relaxing together. 𝐒𝐬 greeted them, curious about Izuku's whereabouts. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 informed her that Izuku was outside training and suggested she check the backyard of the base. She waved goodbye, heading out as 𝐒𝐮𝐬 observed her with a smile. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 appreciated how Izuku had helped 𝐒𝐬 express herself more, noting it had been a long time since he had seen her smile like that. Outside, 𝐒𝐬 spotted Izuku, who was engrossed in his daily exercise routine, shirtless and focused on his sit-ups. As she watched, 𝐒𝐬 felt a blush creeping onto her cheeks, surprised by her reaction to Izuku's physique. She quickly shook her head, trying to dispel her thoughts. Izuku transitioned to push-ups, counting steadily as he worked out. Noticing 𝐒𝐬 standing there, he greeted her, surprised. She replied, feeling flustered, and he asked her to wait while he finished his routine. After 2 hours, Izuku completed his intense workout, which included 1,000 push-ups, sit-ups, squats, and a 30-kilometer run. He smiled at 𝐒𝐬, asking if she needed help with anything. 𝐒𝐬 felt overwhelmed by his presence, struggling to maintain her composure. She stammered that she wanted to check on him. Izuku reassured her that he was fine and inquired about her flushed face, gently touching her forehead, which only deepened her blush. 𝐒𝐬 insisted she was fine and quickly excused herself, leaving Izuku chuckling softly, finding her reactions endearing. He looked up at the sky, missing Cha, and sighed, realizing he needed to shower after his workout. As 𝐒𝐬 rushed back inside the base, Speed noticed her flustered state. 𝐿 asked if she was okay, and Roy-Kwan teased her about her blush, suggesting it was due to Izuku's impressive physique. 𝐒𝐬 covered her face with her hands, embarrassed, and asked them to be quiet. Izuku returned, dressed and ready, asking what the plan was for the day. 𝐿 explained that he would be taking Roy, Sung, and Igris to deal with some squad leaders and members of the Dark Crocodile Society near the port, aiming to weaken 𝐒𝐮𝐬 and 𝐸𝐺CN's forces. Izuku offered his assistance if needed, and 𝐿 agreed. As they left, Izuku took a seat and began browsing the internet, surprised to find himself trending as a Greek god, alongside posts about All Might and other heroes. He noticed many pictures of his family circulating online, reflecting on the unexpected attention. Meanwhile, at the Midoriya mansion, Hisashi and Kai were also scrolling through their phones, commenting on the posts. Kai wondered how people managed to get so many pictures of them. Hisashi chuckled, acknowledging their good looks and the inevitable attention they received. Kai questioned whether they were truly that handsome. Alice, overhearing them, chimed in, reminding Kai that he had a fan club and was labeled the second most handsome man in the world, teasing him about his self-doubt. Kai remained silent, lost in thought. Alice commented on her father, noting that he and Izuku had inherited their good looks from him. Even at his age, people still admired him, and he had a fan club that made him a rival for many women. Hisashi stayed quiet, absorbing her words. Alice continued, mentioning a boy who hadn't reached out since his trip. He was dubbed the world's most handsome man, often referred to as a Greek god online due to his looks and physique. She remarked that the three of them were a threat to women everywhere, putting even models to shame. Both Kai and Hisashi remained silent, taking in the conversation. Alice reminisced about last Valentine's Day, when her brother received a staggering number of love letters from girls across the country. Hisashi recalled that Kai had received around 60,000 letters as well. Alice added that their father had received about 50,000 letters from single mothers, and she was grateful that their mother had burned them all. Kai chuckled lightly, then remembered to share a secret about Alice. He mentioned that Alice had a boyfriend, prompting Hisashi to express surprise. Alice was frustrated, reminding Kai that he promised not to reveal anything. Kai teased that Izuku's overprotectiveness would have made things difficult for her boyfriend if he were present. Hisashi suddenly called out for his wife, Hana, who returned to him. He asked her to get his Glock, claiming he was about to commit a serious act. Alice shouted for her father to wait as he stood up and left, with her chasing after him while Kai laughed heartily. Meanwhile, Izuku scrolled through his Instagram, seeing multiple posts about himself. He sighed and turned off his phone, feeling a strange urge to take drastic action. He inquired about 𝐒𝐬's whereabouts, and she entered, informing him that she had gathered information. It turned out that 𝐸𝐺CN was alone in China City, presenting a perfect opportunity to confront him without his bodyguards. Sebastian reminded 𝐒𝐬 that they needed to wait for 𝐥𝐬 before taking action. 𝐒𝐬, determined, created a gun from her quirk and looked at Sebastian, insisting that she would go alone if they weren't willing to join her. Izuku reflected on how stubborn 𝐒𝐬 could be and decided it was best to support her while ensuring their safety. He agreed to accompany her, emphasizing their friendship and the need to stick together. 𝐒𝐬 smiled at his support. Izuku reassured everyone that everything would be fine because he was there to keep things under control. 𝐼𝐚𝐬 expressed trust in Izuku, and they all prepared to confront their target. Izuku smirked, eager to see how strong 𝐸𝐺CN and his executives truly were. As they approached 𝐸𝐺CN's location, they spotted him entering a building. Izuku urged everyone not to waste any more time and to prepare for the confrontation. They nodded in agreement and began their assault on the guards outside the building. Yuji noticed the commotion and learned they were under attack. He realized that 𝐤𝐸 had finally made a move. As the guards attacked, Yuji skillfully dodged their strikes, showcasing his agility. He taunted them, expressing surprise that 𝐤𝐸 was not with them. Yowool appeared before him, aiming her gun at his head and declaring that she had been waiting for this moment. Just as she was about to pull the trigger, Yuji reacted swiftly, destroying her weapon. He launched a punch at her, which she blocked, countering with a kick that he narrowly avoided. Their exchange escalated into a flurry of strikes, with Yowool landing several hits that sent Yuji sliding back. He acknowledged her growth, noting that she had been training hard. Yowool told him to be quiet and unleashed water spikes in his direction. Yuji dodged them and countered with a powerful kick, which she managed to block just in time. He quickly launched another attack, slamming her to the ground and cracking her helmet. She looked at him with a cold, unreadable expression. Yowool clicked her tongue in annoyance. Yuji sensed the shift in power, realizing that she had likely reached their level, but she still needed more experience. He wondered who had helped her become this strong, knowing it wasn't 𝐤𝐸. Yuji's instincts kicked in as he leaped into the air, narrowly dodging a punch from Izuku that shook the entire building. Yuji was taken aback by the sheer force of the punch, questioning who this formidable opponent was. Izuku glanced at Yowool, who was still on the ground, and helped her to her feet, offering her a reassuring smile. He asked if she was okay, and she smiled back, thanking him. Izuku then declared that it had been a while since he had a real fight and that she could leave everything to him. As he began to stretch, he turned his attention to Yuji, who questioned his identity. Izuku retorted, asking why he should reveal his name to someone he considered defeated. Yuji acknowledged Izuku's sharp tongue and noted that he had been aware of Yowool's plan to confront him alone. Suddenly, the doors swung open, revealing multiple elite fighters surrounding the building, with speed positioned in the center. Sebastian cursed, realizing they had walked into a trap, which excited Izuku. He began to warm up, reminiscent of a legendary fighter, as everyone watched him. Izuku expressed his eagerness to test his skills against the elite fighters, urging them not to disappoint him. With a confident smirk, he charged toward the elite fighters, declaring his presence. He unleashed a powerful punch that sent several fighters flying, then vanished, reappearing to deliver a kick that took out multiple opponents at once. One of the squad leaders attempted to strike Izuku, but he blocked the punch and retaliated, landing blows that incapacitated the leader. The onlookers were astonished as Izuku continued to overpower the elite fighters, each of his strikes overwhelming them with force. Everyone was left speechless, especially Speed, who noted how effortlessly Izuku was dismantling Yuji's elite fighters. Yowool pondered how strong Izuku truly was to be so DMNT against top-tier fighters. One of the elite fighters recognized Izuku, his eyes widening in shock and fear as he witnessed the unfolding chaos. Another fighter, trembling, questioned why his boss was so frightened, revealing that the green-haired individual was a renowned genius from Japan, the head of a powerful clan. He was known as the strongest prodigy of his generation, a master of martial arts, and a figure that inspired dread wherever he went. To confront him was akin to facing death itself. As Izuku adjusted his jacket, the emblem of the Midoriya clan became visible, causing those who saw it to gasp in surprise. He declared it was time for him to get serious. The emblem represented the Midoriya clan, and the fighter was revealed to be Izuku Midoriya, the youngest son of Hisashi, the strongest man in the world. He stood as the pinnacle of absolute power, and everyone's eyes widened in realization. Izuku announced that today would be a massacre for all those affiliated with the Dark Crocodile Society. He stomped the ground, cracking the floor beneath him, and tied his jacket around his waist. He donned his black gloves, preparing for the battle ahead. Izuku expressed that he was doing everyone a favor, stating that the world did not need people like them. His gaze was as cold as ice, and his expression remained unreadable. The elite fighters felt an overwhelming pressure emanating from him, leaving them visibly shaken. He declared that it was time to begin the hunt, positioning himself as the predator and warning them to be prepared. He ominously stated that they would be facing death itself. Yuji observed Izuku, noting that he was Hisashi Midoriya's youngest son, with an aura much darker and more sinister than that of his father. He wondered how Speed had managed to convince someone like Izuku to ally with them, feeling his body tremble at the mere presence of this formidable figure. One elite fighter charged at Izuku, launching a punch that Izuku simply absorbed, looking unfazed as the punch landed on his chest. He then seized the fighter by the face, demonstrating his strength as he incapacitated him with ease, leaving the fighter unable to continue. The remaining fighters hesitated but ultimately decided to attack Izuku. He smirked, disappearing momentarily before reappearing with a broom, breaking off the brush to use it as a pole. He invited them to come at him. Izuku skillfully blocked incoming attacks, using the pole to fend off the elite fighters. He leaped into the air, landing amidst the group, showcasing his demps as he overwhelmed them with his prowess. After a short while, he had dispatched the fighters and turned his attention to Yuji, glaring at him. He remarked that the fighters had not been entertaining and asked if Yuji would provide him with some amusement. Yuji felt a deep sense of dread, realizing that he might not survive this encounter. He sensed the fear of death creeping into his thoughts as Izuku pointed it out, acknowledging the terror in Yuji's eyes. Izuku reassured him that he would not be the one to end Yuji's life, as someone else was meant to do that job. However, he added that Yuji would not be returning to his boss unscathed. 𝐒𝐬 questioned Izuku's intentions, insisting that this was their chance to eliminate Yuji. Izuku explained that it wouldn't be enjoyable without 𝐒𝐬, who was not present. He hinted that while they might spare Yuji for now, they would ensure he returned to 𝐒𝐮𝐬 with some injuries. 𝐒𝐬 expressed her approval of the plan, and Izuku smirked at her, unintentionally complimenting her in the heat of the moment. She blushed at his words as he vanished, reappearing in front of Yuji. With a powerful kick, Izuku sent Yuji crashing into the ceiling, causing glass to shatter around them. Yuji struggled, feeling the impact of the blow and realizing the extent of his injuries. Izuku appeared before Yuji again, seizing him and slamming him to the ground. He dragged Yuji's face along the walls before tossing him toward 𝐒𝐬, who was readying her own attack. 𝐒𝐬 had been waiting for this moment and unleashed a flurry of powerful strikes on Yuji, who struggled to defend himself against her relentless onslaught. He was astonished by her strength, realizing that her blows were far more powerful than he had anticipated. As she continued her assault, Yuji found himself unable to counter or block her attacks, overwhelmed by her skill and speed. 𝐒𝐬 taunted him, enjoying her moment of demps as she slammed him to the ground once more, leaving him gasping for breath. Both Sebastian and 𝐼𝐼𝐻 watched in shock, a hint of fear in their expressions as they witnessed her incredible power. She then slammed him to the ground, and he coughed up a significant amount of blood. Both Sebastian and 𝐼𝐻 looked at 𝐒𝐬, shocked and slightly afraid. 𝐼𝐻 wondered what kind of training Izuku had given her, while Sebastian expressed disbelief that she could deliver such powerful combinations. 𝐼𝐻 concluded that he would never want to be on her bad side, and Sebastian agreed. After 𝐒𝐬 finished, Yuji collapsed, a bloody mess, and Izuku grabbed him by the head, lifting him up. He demanded to know the location of the Dark Crocodile Society's hideout. 𝐒𝐬 pointed in the direction, and Izuku focused his senses, locking eyes with Yuji as his own eyes began to glow with power. He declared that they were declaring war on the Dark Crocodile Society and instructed Yuji to tell 𝐒𝐮𝐬 that his days were numbered. Izuku would be visiting soon. Yuji remained silent, and Izuku took that as an affirmation. He activated his removal ability at 5% and held Yuji's shirt tightly. With a smirk, he bid farewell, asking Yuji to say hello to 𝐒𝐮𝐬 for him. Then, he threw Yuji, sending him flying toward the Dark Crocodile Society's fortress. Izuku smiled slightly at the speed of the throw and turned to his companions, saying it was time to go. 𝐒𝐬 agreed, and Izuku paused, remembering how Chai used to call him Aizu. Memories of their time together flooded back. 𝐒𝐬 noticed a tear fall from Izuku's eye, and he quickly wiped it away, smiling at her. He reassured her that he was fine and that her calling him Aizu had simply reminded him of something. 𝐒𝐬 expressed concern, saying she wouldn't call him Aizu if it brought back bad memories. Izuku insisted it was fine and suggested she could call him Aizu, while he would call her Io as a nickname. Yowool blushed at the nickname, and Izuku smiled warmly at her. He thought about how her happiness mirrored the joy he felt with Cha. They decided to head back, and all three agreed. As they left, the scene shifted to Yowool in her room, deep in thought. She reflected on how Izuku was always on her mind. His smile made her heart race, and she felt safe around him. After her father's death, she had struggled to express her emotions, but since meeting Izuku, she had found joy again. She realized that this was the first time she felt truly happy since her father's passing, and she began to blush as she understood her feelings for Izuku. She pondered whether this was the love her father had spoken of, questioning if she had fallen for Izuku. Meanwhile, Izuku stood at his window, gazing at the stars with a small smile. He thought about how much Yowool reminded him of Cha. Her smile brought him happiness, filling the void in his heart and slowly reopening it. He had not felt this way since Cha's death, but Yowool occupied his thoughts daily, understanding him in a way no one else did. Her smile made his heart race, evoking the same warm feelings he had experienced with Cha. He recalled Cha's last words to him, urging him to let love in if it ever came knocking again. Izuku wondered if he was indeed falling in love again and if he was finally opening his heart to love once more. The scene shifted to Victoria and Kai, who were preparing for bed while Kana and Chisato were already asleep. Kai asked Victoria about her day at work, and she replied that it had been good, though there was one villain causing her trouble. Kai inquired about who could possibly challenge her in a fight, aside from himself, his father, and Izuku. Victoria explained that this particular villain was intriguing, having earned the title of Hero Killer. She was incredibly strong and had managed to hold her own against Victoria in battle. Kai expressed curiosity about a girl's abilities, wondering what her power was. Victoria revealed that she had the ability to copy others' talents, quirks, and magic, noting her high potential. When asked to compare her to Izuku, Victoria admitted that while she was strong, she didn't quite match his level. However, she rated her strength, technique, and power as comparable to a zero-generation fighter, similar to herself and Alice. Victoria added that the girl practiced multiple martial arts and techniques, just like Izuku, calling her a monster in her own right. Kai, intrigued, mentioned he would like to meet this girl. Victoria assured him that he would soon have the chance. The scene shifted to a corrupted hero fleeing for her life, terrified of being caught. She was desperate to survive, fearing for her life. Just as she was about to enter the forest, a spear flew through the air, striking her down. A girl with white hair and red eyes landed on the spear, commenting on the hero's demise and noting that she had not provided any useful information. Adjusting her glasses, she sensed others approaching and decided to move on to her next targets, eagerly anticipating meeting Izuku Midoriya. Meanwhile, Izuku gazed at the stars, a smile on his face as he lit a cigarette, his eyes glowing with power. He felt a sense of anticipation, sensing he would soon encounter someone interesting. The narrative shifted to Izuku waking up, feeling refreshed after a good night's sleep. He wondered how Yowool was doing that morning. Checking the time on his phone, he realized it was 6 in the morning, perfect for his workout session. He decided to increase his training, aiming for 10,000 push-ups, sit-ups, and squats, followed by a 100-kilometer run. After 4 hours of intense exercise, Izuku returned to Speed's base and found 𝐒𝐻𝐬 sitting on the couch with a drink. 𝐒𝐻𝐬 welcomed him back and inquired about his rigorous training regimen. Izuku explained that he had trained with his father as a child, who constantly pushed him to new limits. After his father's passing, he had dedicated himself to achieving a perfect body, adapting his father's methods and surpassing human limits. 𝐒𝐻𝐬 acknowledged Izuku's dedication, noting that even gods did not train like him. Izuku removed his jacket, revealing a black shirt, and draped a towel over his head. He then asked 𝐒𝐻𝐬 about the strength of the gods he would face in the future. 𝐒𝐻𝐬 informed him that the strongest was Zeus and his wife, prompting Izuku to request more information about the gods of Olympus. As 𝐒𝐻𝐬 detailed their strengths, Izuku absorbed the information, realizing the challenges ahead. A dark and menacing aura began to envelop him, a reflection of his growing power. 𝐒𝐮 felt the intensity of Izuku's aura, recognizing its darkness and strength. Izuku reassured 𝐒𝐮 that no matter the tricks the gods might employ, they would not escape his wrath. He vowed to ensure that those responsible for Hellas' suffering would face a fate worse than death. 𝐒𝐮 contemplated the impending confrontation, aware that the time for the gods would soon come to an end, hoping they would be prepared for the day they faced Izuku. 𝐒𝐮 thought about the upcoming conflict, sensing the tension in the air. Izuku stood up and looked at 𝐒𝐮, expressing his intention to freshen up. He mentioned he would be back shortly after taking a shower and changing out of his workout clothes. 𝐒𝐮 acknowledged him with a nod. As Izuku made his way to the showers, he unexpectedly bumped into 𝐒𝐬. He quickly apologized for the encounter. 𝐒𝐬 responded casually, noting that he seemed to have just finished his workout. Izuku confirmed his plans to shower, and 𝐒𝐬 wished him well. He playfully teased her with a nickname, causing her to blush. Izuku chuckled, finding her reaction adorable, and complimented her blush. 𝐒𝐬, flustered, playfully punched him on the shoulder, and he affectionately kissed her forehead before leaving. 𝐒𝐬 touched her forehead, a smile spreading across her face, realizing her feelings for Izuku had deepened. She resolved to confess her feelings to him after the war. Meanwhile, Izuku was in the shower, lost in thought about the kiss. He questioned why he had acted on impulse and wondered if he had developed feelings for 𝐒𝐬. The look in her eyes suggested she might feel the same way, reminding him of past connections. He shook his head, dismissing his thoughts, believing that loving him would only lead to pain. He reflected on his past failures, feeling like a monster unworthy of love, and struggled with the fear of losing someone else he cared about. Despite the turmoil in his heart, Izuku would eventually come to understand love and accept his feelings, learning to embrace the possibility of happiness again. After finishing his shower, Izuku dressed and headed downstairs, where he found Speed and 𝐒𝐮. He wore the outfit reminiscent of Jinwoo from a previous adventure. 𝐒𝐮 welcomed him back, and Izuku sensed something was off with himself, prompting 𝐒𝐬 to worry about his demeanor. 𝐒𝐮 informed him that today was the day they would confront the Dark Crocodile Society to reclaim Incheon. Izuku acknowledged the challenge, noting their limited forces. 𝐒𝐮 reassured him that they had enough strength and mentioned an alliance with other kings to bolster their numbers. Izuku nodded, ready to lead them outside, rallying everyone with a declaration to reclaim Incheon and end the Dark Crocodile Society. Meanwhile, 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐿 of the Dark Crocodile Society was preparing for the conflict, confident that they would prevail. Yuji cautioned him that Izuku Midoriya, the youngest son of Hisashi Midoriya, was a formidable opponent. 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐿's expression shifted upon hearing Izuku's name, recalling the power he had witnessed firsthand. He remembered a past encounter with Hisashi, where he had been defeated and left on the ground, feeling humiliated. Hisashi had looked down at him, expressing disappointment in his abilities. 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐿's anger simmered as he recalled the taunts and the realization that he had been spared only due to his unique resilience. The memory of that battle haunted him, fueling his determination as the impending confrontation loomed. This is the state 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐿 was in after his encounter with Hisashi. Hisashi announced that he would be leaving, eager to test the strength of the other absolute 𝐒𝐮s of China. He found 𝐒𝐮𝐦 weak and unentertaining, but before departing he knelt down and grabbed 𝐒𝐮𝐦's face, a devilish grin spreading across his features as he threatened to take one of 𝐒𝐮𝐦's as a reward. In the aftermath of that encounter, 𝐒𝐮𝐦 reflected on how pathetic he felt that day. Now, with Hisashi's offspring present, he was determined not to let anyone ruin his plans. He was resolute that Incheon belonged to him, and once he dealt with those brats, he would take over all of Korea. Though his ambitions were grand, they hinged on defeating Izuku, a task he deemed impossible. Nevertheless, he decided to let himself dream. 𝐒𝐮𝐦 instructed his followers that speed would be essential for their mission, and they would take out their enemies one by one. He commanded them to show no mercy. The Dark Crocodile Society acknowledged their boss's orders. 𝐒𝐮 then turned to Yuji, assigning him the task of dealing with 𝐽𝑔𝑦𝑛, emphasizing the importance of ensuring his demise. As everyone dispersed, 𝐒𝐮 noticed a man sitting in the corner of the room, wearing shades and sipping a drink. He addressed the man, asking if he was ready. The man confirmed his readiness, expressing a longing to confront Izuku Midoriya, who had harmed his younger brother. He vowed that this would be payback for the pain caused by Izuku's father, Hisashi. 𝐒𝐿𝐬 questioned his son's ability to handle Izuku, given his lineage, but the man reassured him, promising that today would mark the end of Izuku's life. 𝐒𝐿𝐬 expressed his expectations for his son, urging him to eliminate the threat Izuku posed to their plans for 𝐒𝐮𝐬 𝐃𝐞𝐭𝐚𝐢𝐥𝐬. Dong-su, the son of 𝐒𝐿𝐬 and heir to the Dark Crocodile Society, assured his father that he would bring Izuku's head to him. Meanwhile, Izuku, Speed, and Igris had just finished defeating some of 𝐒𝐿𝐬's men outside the Dark Crocodile hideout in Chinatown. Izuku remarked on the size of the hideout, and 𝐒𝐮𝐬 suggested they split up to find 𝐒𝐿𝐬. They agreed that once 𝐒𝐿𝐬 was dealt with, the Dark Crocodile Society would cease to exist. Izuku assigned teams, deciding to go alone along with Igris, while instructing 𝐒𝐮𝐬 to focus on finding Yuji, explaining that he had left Yuji alive during their first encounter for 𝐒𝐮𝐬's sake. Grateful, 𝐒𝐮𝐬 thanked Izuku, who urged everyone to move out. As they split up, Speed and Igris resolved to finally end the Dark Crocodile Society. Igris sensed that Izuku was not in the best state of mind, hoping that whoever he encountered would not provoke him. Igris arrived at a location and began to survey his surroundings. He sensed several energy signatures approaching and decided to wait for them. Mugak Wang and John Ryu arrived with a group of men, noticing Igris sitting casually. Igris smirked, playfully questioning their delay. John contacted Yuji, informing him that they had found one of Speed's members. Yuji instructed John to ensure that Igris did not survive. After ending the call, John saw Igris standing up and challenged them to entertain him. Mugak, displaying his unique abilities, struck himself against a large glass container, shards sticking to his body. Igris observed him, noting that he appeared to be a fighter who felt no pain. Mugak made a keen observation but warned that no one would leave this place alive after they dealt with him. John added that they had orders to eliminate him and deliver his head to their boss. He drew his batons and assumed a fighting stance. Igris sighed heavily, cracking his knuckles. He remarked that the youth of today were quite disrespectful, and he felt it was his duty to teach them some manners. He announced that he would demonstrate how to inflict pain on someone who had never experienced it before. Mugak remained silent, contemplating the situation. Igris continued, expressing his eagerness to hear the cries of someone who had never known pain. Meanwhile, Yeowol and her companions arrived in the heart of the city, where they found 𝐒𝐿𝐬 seated at a table, casually drinking. 𝐒𝐿𝐬 greeted them, acknowledging their meeting. Yeowol, filled with determination, declared that today would be the end for him. She drew the sword crafted by Izuku, its blade glowing blue as she took a firm stance, ready for battle. Her allies positioned themselves, glaring at 𝐒𝐿𝐬. 𝐒𝐿𝐬 stood up, sizing them up, and informed them that their true opponent would be the formidable Kingfinger, challenging them to see how long they could last. Yeowol warned him that he would regret not giving his all from the start. She could sense that her presence and aura were overwhelming, and while she had grown stronger, she knew it might not be enough to defeat him. She proclaimed that one would stand while the other would fall, and she intended for him to be the one to fall along with his dark society. She vowed to avenge her father and ensure his demise. Meanwhile, Izuku was on the move, wielding an AK-47 and targeting the vehicles belonging to the Dark Crocodile Society. His allies expressed their disbelief, calling him a monster for his ruthless efficiency. They feared they could not win against such a formidable opponent. Izuku continued his assault, eliminating the enemies with precision. After dispatching them, he shot the gas pipes, triggering a massive explosion as he walked away with an air of confidence. He then encountered the leaders of the 1,000 Squad, seizing one by the face and slamming him into a wall, ending his threat with a devastating impact. Izuku unleashed his fury on the remaining squad leaders, overpowering them with sheer strength. He sensed a strong energy approaching and turned to see a man with a buzz cut walking toward him. Izuku inquired about the man's identity, to which he introduced himself as Dong-su Jo, the son of 𝐒𝐿𝐬. Izuku acknowledged him as his first opponent, stating he was not in the mood for games and intended to finish this quickly. As they faced each other, a red and crimson aura enveloped Dong-su, while Izuku radiated an aura of death that was both overwhelming and calm. Dong-su accused Izuku of killing his gang members and attempting to harm his brother, declaring it was time for payback. Izuku responded with a chilling promise to send him to hell, assuring him that his brother and father would join him. Dong-su, filled with rage, launched a punch at Izuku, who effortlessly dodged and countered with a strike to his side, causing Dong-su to cough up blood. Dong-su was shocked by the force of the blow, realizing that without his protective mana, he would have been severely injured. Izuku remarked that Dong-su spoke too much for someone so weak. In an instant, Izuku vanished, leaving Dong-su searching for him. Suddenly, Izuku reappeared at his side, glaring intensely. Before Dong-su could react, Izuku grabbed his face and activated his removal technique, slamming his head against a pipeline with tremendous force, causing him to cough up blood. He managed to launch another punch at Izuku, but Izuku dodged it and retaliated with a strike to the same spot, causing Dong-su to stagger back, blood spilling from his mouth. Izuku taunted him, expressing his frustration with Dong-su's inability to back up his words. As Dong-su was sent crashing away, Izuku appeared in front of him, grabbing his head and slamming it into the ground, unleashing a flurry of strikes that left Dong-su reeling. With a cold voice and an unreadable expression, Izuku challenged Dong-su, demanding to know why he wasn't fighting back. Dong-su felt overwhelmed, realizing he couldn't react in time to Izuku's relentless assault. He focused his energy, releasing an aura that pushed Izuku back slightly. As Dong-su's wounds began to heal, he boasted about his immortal body, claiming that no matter the damage he sustained, he would recover instantly, leaving Izuku with no hope of victory. He enveloped himself in mana and charged at Izuku, launching a powerful punch aimed at him. Izuku remained calm and relaxed, countering with a simple punch that sent Dong-su flying away. He expressed his disinterest in prolonging the fight, stating he would end it with his next attack. Summoning Izanami, the sword's aura radiated a terrifying energy that left Dong-su paralyzed with fear, a sensation he had never experienced before. Izuku pointed out the fear in Dong-su's eyes, revealing that he found his existence irritating. Dong-su was astonished by the sword's dangerous aura, questioning how such a weapon could exist. Izuku explained that Izanami was a cursed sword forged by the goddess of death, capable of cutting through gods and any immortal being. He noted that while Dong-su's immortality wasn't on par with the gods, he would serve as an interesting test subject. As Dong-su attempted to flee, Izuku coldly observed his cowardice. With incredible speed, Izuku closed the distance, preparing to use one of his death arts. He unleashed the fifth form of his death arts, summoning a massive dragon that engulfed Dong-su, ending his life. After sheathing his sword, Izuku reflected on how one attack had sufficed, wondering how long a god would withstand his power. He took a moment to sense his surroundings, confirming he had dealt with everyone in the area and decided to search for the others. Meanwhile, Yoel was engaged in battle with 𝐒𝐮𝐬, the last remaining member of her team after he had taken out the others. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 praised her strength, surprised by her growth. Yoel, frustrated, demanded he die already and launched a sword slash at his neck, her weapon infused with water and wind elements. However, he quickly blocked it, shattering her sword, leaving her wide-eyed. He then kicked her in the stomach, sending her flying back, but she managed to recover just in time to find 𝐒𝐮𝐬 already in front of her. He taunted her, declaring she could never defeat him and that she would meet the same fate as her father. Yoel smirked, indicating she had a plan. As the tension escalated, the scene shifted back to a flashback of Izuku training Yoel, showcasing their bond and her development. Izuku observed that carelessness often led to an arrogant opponent letting their guard down. He believed that when an adversary became intoxicated by their own strength and lost their sense of reason, that was the perfect moment to strike with the strongest attack. He advised showing the opponent one's worst hand first to lure them into a false sense of security, making it easier to defeat even the most skilled fighter. Yoel had a question for Izuku, who responded with curiosity. He then stomped on the ground, creating a small crater beneath him. Yoel asked if winning mattered to him, and Izuku clenched his fist tightly in response. She inquired if he used the same strategy, to which he addressed her directly. As Izuku took a stance, a dark and formidable aura began to surround him. Yoel recognized it as midoryia-style Kyokushin karate and questioned why he would use such a technique. She then unleashed a rapid series of straight punches at 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐽, who was caught off guard by her incredible speed. As she fought, she glanced back at Izuku, feeling a rush of admiration for his powerful presence as his aura intensified. Izuku confidently declared that he would win without relying on any specific technique because he considered himself the strongest. Yoel executed a 17-combo attack, leaving 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐽 stunned and unable to react. He marveled at her strength, wondering how much she had grown. With a fierce determination, Yoel unleashed a powerful move called Demon God's Holy Sword, sending 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐽 crashing into the wall. Exhausted, she fell to her knees, struggling to catch her breath. She acknowledged that the technique was one of Izuku's clan strategies, effective against opponents who were overly confident in their abilities. As she stood up, Yoel hurried to assist her injured companions, concerned for their well-being. However, 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐽 reappeared behind her, his injuries mysteriously healed, thanks to his immortal body. He complimented her strategy, but then struck her in the stomach, causing her to cough. Realizing he could no longer underestimate her, he prepared to fight with all his might, even without his sword. Meanwhile, at Izuku's home, Hisashi and Kai were engaged in conversation. Kai asked about Hisashi's experiences in China and the opponents he faced. Hisashi mentioned a man named 𝐒𝐮𝐽𝐽, one of the 7 continental stars, known for his extraordinary mastery. He explained that Joe was rumored to possess an immortal body, always recovering from injuries. Hisashi revealed that he had spared Joe during their fight, taking only his eye as a trophy. Back in the battle, 𝐒𝐮𝐽𝐽 struck Yoel with a palm strike, causing her to cough again. He became furious, launching a series of palm strikes at her. Although she managed to block some, fatigue began to take its toll. 𝐒𝐮𝐽𝐽 shouted his longing to taste defeat, and with a final, powerful palm strike, he sent Yoel crashing into the wall. As he approached her, he taunted her for lacking further strategies, insisting that he was not finished yet. Suddenly, a figure appeared, carrying Yoel in their arms. The newcomer praised her for her performance and apologized for being late. Yoel recognized Izuku and felt a sense of relief. He reassured her to rest while he took charge of the situation. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 arrived, ready to assist, and Izuku entrusted him with the care of Yoel and the others, asking him to heal their injuries. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 complied, producing a potion that helped Yoel recover. Izuku assured her that she could rest now, as he would handle everything from that point onward. Izuku stood up, and 𝐒𝐮𝐽𝐽's eyes widened in shock as he sensed the dark and powerful aura surrounding Izuku. 𝐒𝐮𝐽𝐽 felt an overwhelming pressure and wondered how someone could emit such an aura. It felt so dark that it was as if he were staring at death itself. Though Izuku appeared calm, he was seething inside after witnessing Yoel in distress. He struggled to maintain control, fighting against the urge to unleash his fury. He acknowledged 𝐒𝐮𝐽𝐽, recognizing him as the leader of the Dark Crocodile Society. 𝐒𝐮𝐽𝐽, surprised that Izuku knew him, inquired about his identity. Izuku responded that a dead man had no need to know who he was. 𝐒𝐮𝐽𝐽 felt a chill at Izuku's cold and harsh tone. He noted that Izuku's eyes reminded him of the monster he had encountered before, realizing that Izuku midoryia was indeed the son of that demon. Izuku confirmed his identity, declaring that it would be the last name 𝐒𝐮𝐽𝐽 would ever hear. 𝐒𝐮𝐽𝐽 expressed his curiosity about how Izuku's eyes seemed capable of defeating him. Meanwhile, Hisashi and Kai observed Alice sitting in a chair, having successfully intervened to prevent her father from harming her boyfriend. Hisashi acknowledged that Alice had managed to stop him from taking drastic action against the boy she was dating. He noted that while the boy was strong and capable of protecting her, she would need to convince Izuku when he returned. Alice admitted that convincing Izuku would be the challenging part. Kai chimed in, predicting that Izuku would test the boy's strength before accepting their relationship. He warned that the severity of the encounter would depend on Izuku's mood. Hisashi explained that if Izuku was quiet and not speaking during a fight, it indicated he was in a dangerous state. Kai added that if Izuku started smiling devilishly, it meant trouble. They both agreed that if Izuku unleashed his full power, no one could stop him, and the boy should hide and pray. Alice gulped, realizing she needed to prepare her boyfriend for the challenges ahead. She hoped Izuku would be in a good mood upon his return and considered speaking to her mother, Inko, for advice on how to handle the situation. The scene shifted back to Izuku as 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽 approached him, ready to begin their confrontation. 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽 demanded to know where his son was, expressing disbelief that Izuku was still alive. Izuku coldly informed him that his son was dead and warned that 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽 would soon join him, having pushed him to his limits. 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽 felt his anger rising at Izuku's words. He remarked that he found Izuku's eyes both intriguing and reminiscent of the monster. Izuku inquired if the monster he referred to was his father. 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽 confirmed this, revealing that his father's actions had cost him one of his eyes. He questioned how someone as talented as Izuku could exist in Japan. Izuku noted that he often heard such comments. 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽 then posed a question to Izuku, asking if he could take his eyes. Before Izuku could respond, 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽 lunged at him with incredible speed, his finger aimed dangerously close to Izuku's eyes. Izuku's eyes widened slightly, recognizing the man's surprising agility. However, Izuku swiftly dodged the attack and seized 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽's entire arm, leaving him in shock. Yowool watched in amazement as Izuku effortlessly restrained 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽. Izuku declared that his eyes were too precious to be harmed by someone like 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽. He offered him 7 minutes, the time he would allow for their encounter before ending his pathetic life. 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽 was taken aback, realizing he could not escape Izuku's grip and that his strength was on an entirely different level. Izuku expressed his disgust for 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽's weakness and then executed a swift Aikido move, throwing him aside as if he were a mere napkin. He commanded 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽 to move, while Yowool looked on in surprise, and Igris smiled at the unfolding scene. Yowool was taken aback by Igris's smile. Igris expressed confidence that his king would demonstrate to the crocodile why he was the strongest. Izuku reassured Yowool, sensing her concern. He promised that he would take care of everything from that point onward. He vowed to avenge her father, declaring it a promise. He swore on his name as a midoryia that she would have her revenge against the crocodile. Yowool gazed at Izuku, noticing how much he resembled her father. She thought to herself that he looked so much like her father, it was like looking into a mirror. The man in the red jacket was Yowool's father, 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽, while Izuku was Daniel Park. Yowool reflected on her father, 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽, who had been a very special person in her life. As memories flooded back, she recalled a tall, handsome man with brown hair speaking to her when she was just 10 years old. He was the former king of Incheon, 𝐒𝐮𝐽. 𝐒𝐮𝐽 instructed Yowool to watch closely, explaining that people like the ones they were observing took things without permission. He referred to them as thieves. In her memory, she saw younger 𝐒𝐮𝐽 and 𝐸𝐺 taking parts from a car that belonged to 𝐒𝐮𝐽. 𝐒𝐮𝐽 questioned who the old man was, while 𝐸𝐺 assumed he was asleep. 𝐒𝐮𝐽 pointed out that it was their first time seeing a thief. Yowool excitedly confirmed this. 𝐒𝐮𝐽 pondered what to do next, suggesting sending them to prison, but he believed that even prison wouldn't change them, they would only repeat their mistakes once released. 𝐒𝐮𝐽 and 𝐸𝐺 whispered to each other, thinking 𝐒𝐮 wouldn't hear them, but he caught every word. They plotted to knock him out and escape. Yowool asked her father what they should do. 𝐒𝐮𝐽 proposed a different method to help people, suggesting they should confront them until they admitted their mistakes. Yowool was confused, asking how they would do that. 𝐒𝐮𝐽 simply replied with love. Yowool looked at him, puzzled by his response. In her memory, she saw herself at 10 years old. 𝐒𝐮𝐽 recognized the motorcycle hunters, noting that their family had abandoned them, leading them to a life of crime. 𝐒𝐮𝐽 and 𝐸𝐺 clenched their teeth in anger, demanding to know how he knew them. 𝐒𝐮� explained that their actions stemmed from a lack of love and attention. He then smiled warmly at them, suggesting that Yowool now had 2 older brothers. The scene shifted to 𝐒𝐮𝐽 and 𝐸𝐺, who were engaged in a fierce battle, finally settling their scores. 𝐤𝐬 launched a kick at 𝐸 using the overturning void technique, which 𝐸 successfully blocked. 𝐤𝐬 reflected on how he once dismissed the ideas of love and attention as nonsense, but he realized that 𝐒𝐮𝐬 had been genuine. Though he may have seemed eccentric, 𝐒𝐮𝐬 had raised them with his heart, and they had no other teacher. He remembered 𝐒𝐮𝐬 teaching them how to fix cars, encouraging them to learn while he taught so they could earn even if they ran away. 𝐤𝐬 acknowledged that 𝐒𝐮𝐬 had filled the role of both mother and father in their lives. He felt a surge of anger, recalling how they had betrayed someone who had given them everything. Meanwhile, 𝐸 was seen conversing with Dongsu and 𝐒𝐮𝐬 from the Dark Crocodile Society, taking money while 𝐒𝐮𝐬's lifeless body lay nearby, his expression unreadable. 𝐤𝐬 confronted 𝐸, furious about the betrayal of Incheon. 𝐸 apologized for what had happened to 𝐒𝐮𝐬 but dismissed 𝐤𝐬's nostalgia, urging him to finish what he wanted to say. 𝐤𝐬 fell silent, contemplating 𝐸's words. 𝐸 expressed his disdain for the notions of love and attention, stating that he had only wanted to make money while being overwhelmed by the idea of family. He questioned whether he had asked 𝐒𝐮𝐬 to take him in, accusing him of sweet-talking weak kids and making them work for him. 𝐸 delivered a punch to 𝐤𝐬's stomach, asserting his demps in the fight. He expressed his preference for being on top, suggesting it was a straightforward position to hold. As 𝐤𝐬 attempted a kick, 𝐸 skillfully blocked it and countered with a palm strike to 𝐤𝐬's chest, revealing his confidence in their rivalry. He reflected on his past, mentioning that he had remained in a rundown car lot because he had nowhere else to go. 𝐤𝐬 retaliated with a kick aimed at 𝐸's face, but 𝐸 dodged and responded with a swift strike back to 𝐤𝐬's face. He taunted 𝐤𝐬, reminding him that he had never defeated him in Taekyon. 𝐤𝐬 fell to the ground, grunting in pain, while 𝐸 declared his ambition to climb higher, stating that Incheon was just the beginning. 𝐸 recalled hearing that Yeowol had stopped showing emotions after 𝐒𝐮𝐬's death, a realization that fueled his determination to rise. 𝐤𝐬 questioned whether 𝐸 intended to become president, implying that 𝐸's aspirations were unrealistic. 𝐸 dismissed 𝐤𝐬's words, suggesting he was bluffing and should just give up. As 𝐸 prepared to deliver a final blow, 𝐤𝐬 executed a backflip kick, sending 𝐸 sliding back and causing him to cough. 𝐸 was taken aback as he sensed 𝐤𝐬 approaching with an overwhelming aura, indicating that he was no longer holding back. The intensity of 𝐤𝐬's presence shocked 𝐸, who realized that 𝐤𝐬's power had significantly increased. 𝐤𝐬 charged at 𝐸 with incredible speed, launching a kick that 𝐸 barely managed to block. The impact was so forceful that 𝐸 felt his bones strain under the pressure. He was astonished by the strength behind 𝐤𝐬's attack, recognizing that he had never experienced such power before. As 𝐤𝐬 continued his assault, 𝐸 struggled to maintain his composure, knowing he couldn't afford to lose. 𝐤𝐬 leaped into the air, and 𝐸 braced himself for the next attack, recalling 𝐤𝐬's reliance on technique and speed. He prepared to counter with his own technique, hoping to turn the tide of the battle in his favor. Meanwhile, Izuku and 𝐒𝐮𝐬 discussed the impending war between the Speed faction and the Dark Crocodile Society. Izuku expressed his lack of concern for 𝐤𝐬's safety, believing that 𝐤𝐬 was capable of handling himself despite his seemingly weak demeanor. He noted that 𝐤𝐬 had not revealed his full strength in previous encounters, suggesting that he was saving his true abilities for revenge. As the fight resumed, 𝐸 attempted to block another kick from 𝐤𝐬, but the force of the impact exacerbated his injuries. He felt a surge of fear as he recognized the combination of technique, speed, and strength that 𝐤𝐬 possessed. 𝐤𝐬 unleashed a unique skill, the death kick, slamming 𝐸 to the ground with tremendous force. The attack created a massive crater and shockwave, leaving 𝐸 severely injured and unable to continue. 𝐤𝐬 unleashed his unique skill, the death kick, slamming 𝐸 into the ground. The impact created a massive crater and a shockwave, leaving 𝐸 incapacitated. 𝐤𝐬 landed beside 𝐸's still body, gazing down at him. 𝐤𝐬 thought that this move was intended for 𝐒𝐮𝐬, but he decided to test it on 𝐸 to see if he could endure it. Unfortunately, it seemed that 𝐸 could not. He expressed his disdain, wishing 𝐸 a fate of eternal suffering. Meanwhile, at his home, Hisashi was busy with paperwork when Victoria entered, catching his attention as his daughter-in-law. Hisashi greeted her warmly, curious about her visit. Victoria responded with a polite hello and mentioned she had a question. Hisashi raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Victoria inquired about Izuku's perfect copy ability and how it functioned. Hisashi pondered the question, smirking as he realized what she was asking. He explained that while Izuku's ability to mimic what he sees was impressive, it did not rely solely on his eyes. Victoria was surprised, seeking clarification. Hisashi elaborated that it was rare to find someone with a true copy ability. Most users relied on their eyes, but their mimicry was never perfect. Izuku's true strength lay in his heightened senses. Victoria was curious about these senses. Hisashi described how Izuku had a unique ability to perceive others' intentions deeply. Ever since he was young, he could anticipate attacks in slow motion. Hisashi wasn't sure if this ability was innate or learned, but it was essential for his copying skill. Victoria's eyes widened as she realized it wasn't just about Izuku's sharp vision. Hisashi continued, explaining that in battle, one could sense many things: air, smells, sounds, and more. He had intensified Izuku's training daily, pushing him harder than his siblings to help him maximize his senses, which would ultimately guide him to discover his second ability. Hisashi mentioned Izuku's first ability, limitless copy, which allowed him to replicate others' unique skills. He noted that Izuku could fully realize the potential of the moves he copied due to his perfect body. Victoria asked about this perfect body. Hisashi described Izuku as a formidable fighter, capable of executing moves with machine-like precision, often enhancing them beyond their original power. He explained that anyone attempting to copy Izuku's techniques would struggle, as their bodies would not withstand the strain required to perform the replicated moves. Hisashi speculated about the possibilities if Izuku discovered his second ability, envisioning countless copied techniques combined with heightened senses. He imagined Izuku being able to read his opponent's movements effortlessly. Pouring drinks for himself and Victoria, Hisashi added ice and shook the glass lightly. He compared Izuku's potential to a form of future sight. Hisashi elaborated that his ability to read opponents' intentions also allowed him to discern their defenses and weaknesses. Victoria's eyes widened. Further at this revelation, Hisashi concluded that no opponent would stand a chance against Izuku. Curious, he asked Victoria why she wanted to know about Izuku's perfect copy ability. Victoria explained that she was facing an opponent with a similar ability and needed to understand it better. Hisashi raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Victoria described her opponent as someone who could copy quirks and mimic anything she observed. Hisashi pondered the strength of this opponent's body. Victoria described her as tough and well-trained, identifying her as the hero killer 𝐒𝐬. She showed Hisashi a picture of 𝐒𝐬 on her phone, prompting Hisashi to examine it closely. He considered the implications, noting that if 𝐒𝐬 attempted to use Izuku's techniques or martial arts, she would likely only be able to sustain it for a brief period before her body gave out. Victoria remarked on how powerful Izuku's perfect copy ability was. Hisashi agreed, acknowledging its strength. He reflected on his own fighting style, characterized by raw power and instinct, contrasting it with Izuku's calm and calculated approach, even in intense situations. Victoria then asked about Izuku's UI and how it functioned. Hisashi explained that in UI, Izuku fought efficiently, adapting to his opponent's strength and combat style. He noted that Izuku's counterattacks were precise, matching the force of the attacks he received. Hisashi noted that his ultra instinct pursued efficiency to the extreme. He was constantly devising the perfect solution to every situation he encountered. He explained that ultra instinct was a rare state where the body moved autonomously, without thought. It was instinctual movement. If one were to describe Izuku, he would be seen as the embodiment of perfection. Back in Inshan, Izuku effortlessly dodged all of 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽's attacks, as if it required no effort at all. 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽 was frustrated, realizing that despite his relentless strikes, it felt as though Izuku was predicting his every move. Izuku reflected on his ability, which he referred to as future sight. It was a challenging skill to master, But thanks to his perfect copy ability, exceptional physique, and heightened senses, he had managed to master it. However, he acknowledged that this ability drained a significant amount of stamina and required intense focus. As he continued to evade 𝐒𝐿𝐬's attacks, Izuku's eyes began to glow. He decided it was time to stop playing around and take the fight seriously. Before 𝐒𝐿𝐬 could react, Izuku struck him with a powerful punch, causing him to cough up blood. 𝐒𝐿𝐬 felt the impact resonate through his body, realizing the severity of his injuries. Izuku, showing no signs of mercy, grabbed 𝐒𝐿𝐬 by the face and slammed him to the ground. He then seized his leg, swinging him left and right with tremendous force. Izuku dragged 𝐒𝐿𝐬's face against the wall, leaving him gasping for breath. 𝐒𝐿𝐬 struggled to find an opportunity to counterattack, realizing that his efforts were futile against Izuku's superior instincts. He attempted another strike, but Izuku dodged effortlessly once more, leaving 𝐒𝐿𝐬 bewildered. Determined to find a way to turn the tide, 𝐒𝐿𝐬 unleashed a powerful attack, but Izuku evaded it with ease, further shocking his opponent. Izuku retaliated by kicking 𝐒𝐿𝐬 into the air, then appearing above him to deliver a devastating punch that sent him crashing toward the ground. Before 𝐒𝐿𝐬 could hit the ground, Izuku was already at his side, landing another powerful blow that forced him to cough up blood. Izuku then unleashed a deadly combination of strikes, sending 𝐒𝐿𝐬 flying. Just before he could collide with the wall, Izuku appeared in front of him, preparing for his final move. With a focused breath, Izuku unleashed a punch infused with air pressure, connecting with 𝐒𝐿𝐬's rib cage. The force of the blow was immense, causing 𝐒𝐿𝐬 to cough up blood in shock and disbelief. As 𝐒𝐿𝐬 crashed into the wall, the impact created a cloud of dust. When the smoke cleared, he emerged with a significant injury, leaving Yeowol in shock. She couldn't believe that even her father had never managed to put him in such a state during their battles. Izuku reflected on the moment, recalling the flash of light that revealed 𝐒𝐿𝐬's weakness. Yeowol, still in disbelief, acknowledged Izuku's victory over 𝐒𝐿𝐬. Izuku exhaled, feeling the weight of the battle. He recognized that maintaining his peak condition required tremendous focus, as utilizing his heightened senses was both exhausting and mentally taxing. Izuku reflected on the rigorous training he had undergone with Hela and his father, realizing he had mastered his path without any drawbacks. He sensed that the battle was not yet over. 𝐒𝐿𝐬 was still alive, thanks to his immortal body. 𝐒𝐿𝐬 slowly rose to his feet, his skin darkening as his injuries began to heal. He acknowledged his defeat, admitting that he had lost disgracefully for the second time. His body felt unresponsive, even his breathing seemed out of his control. He expressed disbelief that it wasn't just sight that mattered, but all 5 senses. He recognized Izuku as a formidable opponent, a monster who had achieved what many elite fighters could only dream of. 𝐒𝐿𝐬 noted that if it weren't for his immortality, he would have perished in their encounter. He explained that his ability to stand was due to being one of the 7 continental stars, and he reiterated the blessing of his immortal body. 𝐒𝐿𝐬 elaborated that enduring hits was not merely about withstanding pain, it involved enhancing blood flow and recovery. He activated his unique skill, Dark blood transformation, and admitted to Izuku that no matter how many times he stood up, he likely wouldn't be able to defeat him. He acknowledged the unrivaled nature of Izuku's path, which seemed to have no limitations due to his mastery. 𝐒𝐿𝐬 realized he had come close to death twice that day, pushed to the brink by Izuku and another fighter. He resolved to fight with this newfound awareness. He retrieved a case containing the Hwarang sword, a legendary weapon said to rival Japan's Muramasa. Izuku was taken aback by 𝐒𝐿𝐬's belief that the sword could match his grandfather's legacy. With a sudden burst of speed, 𝐒𝐿𝐬 charged at Izuku, launching a sword slash. To his astonishment, Izuku caught the blade with his bare hand. Izuku remarked that if this was 𝐒𝐿𝐬's idea of fighting to survive, he clearly had much to learn about true survival. As Izuku exhaled a cold breath, he vanished and reappeared behind 𝐒𝐿𝐬, delivering a swift slash with his unique skill, Formless Sword. Jaegyeon and Yeowol arrived at the scene, witnessing Izuku's incredible technique, leaving them in shock. 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦𝐚𝐫𝐲 struggled to comprehend Izuku's speed and the technique he had just demonstrated. He questioned how Izuku had come to know of formless sword. Izuku, with a smirk, confirmed that he was indeed familiar with it. Yowo was bewildered, asking what the technique was, while 𝐒𝐮𝐬 explained that only those who had transcended human limits could wield such a skill, and Izuku was the only one who had done so. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 marveled at the type of being Izuku had become, while 𝐒𝐮𝐦 recognized that Izuku was no longer human. He questioned what Izuku truly was. Izuku acknowledged 𝐒𝐮𝐦's strength and respect but noted that he was facing an opponent far beyond his league. He decided it would be disrespectful to fight without a sword and chose to engage 𝐒𝐮𝐦 using his own specialty. A dark, menacing aura enveloped Izuku as the skies turned purple and lightning crackled, overwhelming everyone present except for 𝐒𝐮𝐬, who stood firm. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 commented on Izuku finally preparing to unleash his true power. Izuku called upon the spirits, seeking strength in exchange for blood, summoning the spirit of 𝐒𝐮𝐬, who descended holding his sword. As she placed the weapon in Izuku's hand, he turned to 𝐒𝐮𝐦, ready for their duel as swordsman against swordsman.